When you look in the public domain and you see the private sector organization of Jamaica, you see other major groups like the Manufacturing Association, among others, are in the public domain lobbying the government, or advocating for one, the government to import workers to Jamaica because they can't find anybody to work, and two, for the government to lower the public sector wage bill. It's like, I don't know, well, I can't say for certain, but it feels like there is this coordinated effort from the upper class people in Jamaica, from the elites, to push Jamaicans deeper and deeper into poverty. It feels like there is like a coordinated attack by the elites on the average Jamaicans. There is no other way to put it, because it cannot be that we have these people who are professing to be the most erudite among us, yet there is this glaring disconnect between what we, the average citizen, are experiencing in society as far as our standard and our quality of life are concerned, and what they perceive it to be. They can't be so far removed from reality that they can't see the suffering that their actions have wrought on the citizens. And there is a certain arrogance that comes with someone who is, in a vaunted position. History shows us. But then again, I am sure they are students of history, and they would see what contributed to the rise and the fall of civilizations. Every civilization that fell, it fell as a result of the fact that the wealth kept moving in one direction. And as we stand now in 2025, that is exactly what is happening. The wealth is going in one direction, and then there is this cognitive dissonance that exists among the people at the top, and some of the people who are somewhere who are not struggling, so to speak. It's like, you and I get the same 24 hours. You're supposed to pull yourself up by the bruise up. Oh, you're lazy. You don't want to work. You want too much money. This, that, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, do you guys not understand that there has to be a meritocracy? There has to be a fair distribution of the wealth in an economy for that economy to remain civilized. You cannot expect that people, having been reduced to their base instinct, where every single day they are fighting for survival, literally maintain civil order. It does not compute. We're living in a society where the rich continues to hoard the wealth. It would be one thing if the wealth that was being generated was generated by these people. Most of these people don't do anything. They don't do anything. It's passive income they're making all this money from. And then they refuse to pay taxes because they put the money in stocks and other securities. And then they borrow from the bank, and the bank create this fake money, right? And then we have to produce to pay it back, because when you create money out of thin air, it's inflation, because people believe that the bank lends your money to other depositors. That's not what the bank does. When you go to the bank and you deposit your money in the bank is not lending that money to other depositors. When you go to the bank and you borrow money from the bank creates the money. If you understand how fractional reserve banking works, the bank creates the money. The bank is not lending your money to anybody. It is creating money out of nothing. And then, of course, it creates it at interest. When the loan is repaid, it removes the money that it created. That's how it works. So if I go to the bank and I borrow $10 million, the bank literally created that $10 million. That is why governments do not need to borrow from the IMF, because it makes no sense. The government should borrow from its own economy. So the government of Jamaica needs money. Instead of going to the IMF and saying, oh, we need $2 billion US, you go to the Bank of Jamaica and you borrow that money from the Bank of Jamaica, and then you pay it back, because the IMF does not have that money to give us. What the IMF does is contact the banks in Jamaica, because it's what people don't understand. But it is all a ploy to plunge the majority of citizens into the depths of poverty. This is what people don't understand. So when your country go to the IMF and say, oh, we need $40 million US, the IMF does not have $40 million US to give you. The IMF will call the banks in your country and say, well, we need $40 million US. Because how is Jamaica going to get the $40 million? They have to deliver the money somehow in the hands of the Jamaican government, so the Jamaican government can get it. And the only way for them to do that is through a bank. They're not going to pack up suitcases with cash and take. That's not how it works. They don't pack up suitcases with cash and bring to your country and say, oh, you here is the 40 million that you borrowed. No, it is through the same banking system, and they will purchase that money. So when the government makes the budget and say, oh, the budget is $100 billion, and they need 100 billion Jamaican dollars, so they need to go borrow, and we only have 40, so we need to borrow 60 billion Jamaican dollars. The IMF don't have 60 billion Jamaican dollars to give us. They're going to call a Jamaican bank, and a Jamaican bank is going to create that 60 billion, because that's how it works. They're literally going to create that $60 billion, put it in the account just like that. Right now, the banks that I am banking with can literally go in my account and just put whatever figure they want to put there. That's how it works. It's literally numbers on a screen, right? And so you will now have to work and generate, in terms of productivity, the value that the bank created. That's how it works. So when the government borrows money, the government is borrowing against the future. The government is saying, we need $50 billion now. We're going to go into the future, reach and take it and bring it here. So it simply means that you know over the future $60 billion you're going to have to pay that shit. And how you pay it is with your sweat and tears. That's how it works. I mean, that's an oversimplistic way of putting it, but that is how it works. And we see where all the wealth is going in one direction. I saw an employer yesterday whom I responded to, saying he needs help because he can't get anyone to work for him. He has jobs available, and he has advertised the positions. He used various media to various channels to advertise the positions, but he just can't. Nobody seems interested in working, and and of course I responded to the video, and I'm like, it's the pay, because there's this misconception about entry-level positions, and and what I believe are the best indicators, are the best way to tell these stories, because people can identify with something that happened to them. Because when you're explaining it in an abstract way, sometimes it fly over people's head. They don't get it. They don't understand what you're saying. But if you can say, hey, I was working at this company, and these were the conditions, and this was my pay, and this is what happened, then people tend to be able to relate more to what you're saying. So I am going to attempt to do that with one of my own personal experiences, just to kind of like let people understand that there is a glaring disconnect between reality and what people think or believe. So when I was 17 years old, that's long ago, right? Long time ago, I got a little job at a gas station. At the time, I was paid $2,400 per week. That was more than the minimum wage. I think was $1,800. I don't remember, right? And I used to go from about 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And so we would open. So there was me, my brother, the guy whose stepdad owned the gas station. He never did anything. He was just never really did anything. And there was a lady that worked inside that sells the stuff, the brake shoe and the tires. Well, she wouldn't get it. We would the oils, the WD-40, whatever you need for your vehicle. That little shop she would sell inside the shop, and she's the one that would give us the salary, right? And so there was me, my brother. There's another man. He was just there. I can't recall what he did, but this old man was just there. He worked there, of course, but I can't. I think he just like sweep up and do some stuff. I don't know. But he was there, and there was a lady, and there was another guy. Like like if you want your car to wash, if you need something to check, he would do that. So there was about 5 or 6 of us, right? I would pump the gas because the guy whose stepfather owned the gas station, he really was supposed to do one pump the gas, but he was just too bougie for that shit. So he didn't want to pump the gas. So I would pump the gas, right? So we would and we were neighbors. We didn't live literally next to each other, but I could walk to his house, he could walk to my house. Never came to my house because we were broke as fuck, right? So my brother and I worked there. My brother worked for them. So it was not just the gas station, it was the house. So he would like cut the yard, feed the pigs, do whatever they wanted. It was like an errand boy. So he wasn't just working at the gas station, he worked for them in a general capacity, right? I worked specifically at the gas station. Okay, so I was getting $2,400. I was 17, $2,400 per week. I worked from 7 a.m. in the morning until the gas station closed at 10 o'clock in the night. And that was the pay. It was just the flat pay. Whatever they agreed to pay me per week, that was it. So I'm working from 7 to 10. You can do the calculation on how many hours that is. I was never being paid for the overtime, and I did that until I went to Heart. I don't know how long I did it for, but it was less than a year, because I was 17, I went to Heart 1 month before I turned 18. So it probably was like anywhere from 7 to 9 or 10 months, I don't recall. Right? And I opened the gas station, and I went when it opened, like literally there, we were the ones who go to open it, and we were the ones who closed it. So from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the night, and it was 6 days. Mind you, it was from Monday to Saturday because I had to go to church on Sunday. That was not negotiable, right? And I don't think they opened on Sunday either. So from Monday to Saturday, 6 days per week, from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the night, working, and it was 2,400 flat. There was no overtime pay. And of course, this Saturday would be overtime, like, because you understand, because I didn't get the day off Sunday because this was open on Sunday, but I was being paid for a 5 day work week. When I worked 6 days, I don't know I can't even calculate in my head from 6 to 10 is how long, but that was every day. So I'm saying this to say that when people are talking about, oh, people don't want to work and it's a minimum wage job or whatever, these people are the ones, when I go jog in the mornings, I don't see a manager opening the gas station. It's the people pumping the gas opens the gas station. They're there from 6 o'clock in the morning. That's the one who opened the gas. You're the one, if you work at the gas station and you open it, you're the one who opens it because you're trying to get the people who are leaving early for work in the morning. And you're there for the whole day. So if you come in at 6, you're not drawing off at 3. You're there for the whole day. And from my experience, as I said, I don't know if they don't, because most of these places, they don't understand that if you have the person working for 6 days a week, you're supposed to be paying them for overtime. The minimum wage covers 40 hours max. 40 hours max. Any hours over, and this simply means that they work 8 hours per day. So if you're having them coming in from 7 o'clock in the morning, and your restaurant clock at 9 o'clock, and they're there closing up at 9, and maybe they have to stay over 1 extra hour, so them leave at 10, you have to pay for all that extra time. You can't know the weekends, and then suddenly you give them a little brown envelope with the $18,000 in it. And this is what is happening everywhere. And people don't seem to understand that. And then bitch and come to the Jamaicans want a whole heap of money, and we don't want to work, and with this, and they say a bunch of stuff without understanding the reality of what is happening on the ground. I see these people. I see them at the station when I go jog in the morning. They're opening. Sometimes I'm there at like 5:30, and I see somebody. I see one of the staff. What the hell? Why are they here so early? Opening up, and you're there for the whole day, and you're being paid minimum wage because it's a minimum wage. Because you don't need any skill to operate a gas pump, right? You don't. And I get it. But at the end of the day, these employers don't understand the minimum wage is of 40 hours per week. Any hours over that, you have to pay the staff for the overtime at time and a half. That's how it works. But they don't do that. And more often than not, the staff don't even, because when it was happening to me, I didn't know. I was just glad for the $2,400. I didn't know that this man owed me, because when I did the calculation, it would have been the $2,400 plus more than the $2,400 that he was paying me as my base. So I should have been getting more than twice what I was being paid because of the overtime. And I wasn't. But it never occurred to me. I didn't know. It's years later when I am reflecting on the past, and I'm like, but wait a minute. This is really what was happening to me. I was being, severely underpaid or whatever the case may be, but I just did not know. And of course, it's always the narrative where they're making it seem as if, oh, people are doing this minimum wage job and they want all this money. If you go to KFC and you have to be there from 7 o'clock in the morning until KFC closes at 10, 11 o'clock in the night, at the end of and you have to work for 6 days a week or however, if you get 1 day off, so you're working 6 days per week, they cannot pay you $16,000 because the $16,000 covers 40 hours for the week. But this is what they do, and I'm speaking from personal experience. It's the same thing in the supermarkets. You come and you open from 8 o'clock in the morning, and they have you there till 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, or you close the supermarket. You have somebody say, oh, I have a little bar, and I'm looking for a bartender. And they hire you as a bartender, and they tell you, oh, I'm paying you whatever amount they're paying you per week. And you work from Monday to Saturday, right? And you open the bar, and you close the bar. And of course, there's no one to give you a break. So you sit in the bar and you take your lunch. So you can't close for an hour and go take another lunch. Because I know this is what happens. You understand? I've worked in bars before. Not as an official worker, but I worked, in a liquor shop, whatever, before. And that's how it works. And you're there, and there's no expectation that you are to be given your hour break, which you're legally due by law. So there's no official break. Of course, you're going to take lunch, but you're not taking lunch because you're just in the bar having lunch. You can't close the bar and this is my 1 hour, no disturb, because there's nobody to relieve you because it's one bartender. So you were at the bar and you're eating and you're stopping and serving, and that's why sometimes people say Jamaicans are, customer service is bad. But it's like when you go to these establishments, that person's been there no break and they have to take their lunch and whatever, while working. That's how it works. You understand? And you're there from however early in the morning until the establishment closes. And then at the end of the week, they give you in your little round envelope whatever they agreed to pay you when you do. So they say, oh, boy, I'm a little borrow kind of 18,000 a week, me pay. That's what they say. And it doesn't matter how long you work each week. So if you work from 4 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock in the night, for 6 days, they're paying you the $18,000 because they say the bar work is $18,000 a week, me pay. And so you work 15 hours per day for 6 days for the week. And at the end of the week, they give you the $18,000. This is literally what's happening in Jamaica right now. Because people don't understand the labor laws, and most of the people who are working, of course, they don't know or they understand either. That's the reality of the situation. You're working at a restaurant, somebody have a little cook shop or whatever you want to call it, and they hire 1 or 2 persons to take orders and collect the cash or whatever. You hire a little chef, right? And you're there from 7 o'clock in the morning until the restaurant closes at 8, 9 o'clock in the night, and they tell you, oh, we're paying $20,000 a week. And like, but you're working 12 hours per day for 6 days out of the week, or for the whole 7 days sometimes. And they still give you the $20,000 when the week ends. And it's like, no, the $20,000 is just for 40 hours. You owe me for 80 hours overtime at time and a half. That is like, people don't understand, that is not what is happening. And then you have some jobs that people look at and say, oh, it's a minimum wage job, you can't want that much money. And they don't look at the volume of the work that the person has to undertake. It is not a minimum wage job. Yes, you don't need any kind of qualification, training, or experience, but when you look at just the sheer volume of what you have to do, it is not a minimum wage job. And a case in point is somebody who does scullion duties in like a hotel. I wish people had an opportunity to just observe what these people have to do. Because I have, of course I had that opportunity because I worked on the night shift, and it's in the night they do most of the cleaning and stuff. And when I see the grime and the amount of pots and plates and pans and with all the stuff and the gunk and whatever, and is this one guy in there, and I'm like, oh my God. And of course he has to clean all the like the stove and where they prepare food. He has to clean all of that, including the pots and pans and stuff. Plus inside the restaurant, it's a hotel, so it's not inside because the restaurant is on the outside, inside the kitchen. So inside the kitchen, he has to get rid of all the gunk and the oil and whatever that is built. They do a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of lard and fat and you have spillage. He has to clean out all of that gunk outside of the kitchen to get it ready by 6 o'clock, because chefs have to come in early to get breakfast prepared by 7 o'clock. Plus he has to prep. So not only does he have to clean all of these pots and pans and whatever that they just fling there, right? Because the chef, it's not your job. You just come and you throw it in the air where the guy needs to come and wash the stuff. And it's a lot of pots and pans. It's a lot, and it's like when the guy is finished, he is wet, he's drenched in sweat as if he was standing in pouring rain. That's how it is. And I'm like, I couldn't do this shit. I couldn't do this shit. And then you're gonna say, well, because this is what people think, oh well, you don't need any form of qualification. Yeah, but it's a lot of fucking work. You're not paying for the skill in this sense. You're paying for the volume of work that the person has to undertake. Because it's not just about, you don't have a degree, the job doesn't require one, this, that, and the third. It's like, yeah, but how much work, how much effort am I putting out into getting this job done? You understand? It's a lot of fucking work. And then at the end of the week, you get the minimum wage because it's a minimum wage job. It's like, no, it's not. There's a lot of work that the person has to do. A lot of work that they have to do. And of course, they don't get any respect from the managers and whatever. The treatment is very poor because they are looked down on by virtue of the quality of the job that they're doing. Notwithstanding that if the chef come and the kitchen is not clean, it's all hell is going to break loose because you can't. How are you going to prepare breakfast if you have nothing? There are no pots, no clean pots, pans, no clean utensils. The kitchen is dirty. Nothing is ready. Because the chef don't come and get anything ready. The people who clean the kitchen or clean the pots and pans get the stuff ready for them. So when they come, they just get their equipment and they start whatever. Sometimes the vegetables are pre-chopped by the person who's cleaning the fucking pots and pans. But because people don't understand what goes into these jobs, like, oh, it's just a minimum wage job and you won't be paid for you. You're at a little restaurant on the corner, and the person have you there from 6 o'clock in the morning until the restaurant closes at 10 o'clock in the night. And you're telling me for 6 days out of the week, but you want to pay me the minimum wage. That's not how it works. And that is literally what is happening to people in Jamaica. And I am speaking from what I have observed and from what has happened to me. Of course, now I know better, right? But it's like there's this disconnect between the reality of what is happening to people, the injustices that are visited upon people in the world of work. You're working at a clothing store. Okay, fine. You just assist people when they come in there. But the store opens at 9 and close at 9. That is not 8 hours. And you're standing all day. And you're working 6 days out of the week. And they pay you exact minimum wage is like 6 days. It's not, and I'm working more than 40 hours. You have to pay for the time. You're working in a jewelry store. It's the same fucking thing. It's the same thing that persists right across the board. And then what the official employers do, like the big ones with the 500 staff and 400 staff and 1,000 staff or whatever, they don't pay you for your lunchtime. So you have to be at work, because my last job that I just left, we worked for 9 hours because our lunchtime is not counted in there. So you get your 1 hour. So we are literally at work for 9 hours out of the day. They're getting 11 to 12 hours of my time because I have to get up early to get ready to go catch the bus. So my shift starts at 7. I have to get up from 5:30. Do the math. To get ready to go get a taxi to go in town to get the staff bus to go to work. 5:30. How many hours that before 7? A hour and a half? 6 to 7. 5:30. A hour and a half. And then, right, it is going to take me an hour to reach home. So that's 2.5 hours. And I spend 9 hours at work. 9 plus 2.5 is how much? 11.5 hours. And of course, whether there is traffic on the road, it might take an hour and a half to reach home. So we can just say 12 hours. So 12 hours out of my day is dedicated to work, from getting ready to go and then to reach back home. That's 12 hours out of my day. There are 24 hours in the fucking day. So where do you get the time now to do another job or to do something else? Because if I have to get up from 5:30 and I'm reaching back at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, what am I going to do in between? Because I need to know whatever I need to cook, shower, do whatever I need to do, get some rest to get up back at 5:30 so I can be at again. That is how it works. So at what point would you have time to do another job? Unless you're not going to sleep. And my job does not allow me time to sleep based on how the thing is set up. You would be able to sleep at work. So you can say, oh, well, I'm just going to go and I'm going to take an hour. No. We're on a call for the 9 hours that we're there. Literally. You're on a Microsoft Teams call. That's how it works. So there's no time for you to sleep. So even if you're going to get another job, and we don't have these little part-time jobs that we can do. It's not like in the States when you can go do 5 hours here, 4 hours there. And that's not how it works. Any job that you're getting is a full-time 8-hour job. So there's no way for you to get a second job. If you take a night shift job, you're just not going to be able to make the day shift one. Because the night shift is going to start from 11 o'clock in the night and ends at 7. If my job starts at 7 in the morning, how am I going to leave a job 7 o'clock to be at a job 7 o'clock? It can't work. It doesn't work. And this is what people don't understand. So the one job that you have has to sustain you, unless, of course, you have a side hustle, like maybe you're selling stuff out of your home. I don't know, fruits and vegetables. I don't know. Maybe you plant some fruits in the backyard. But where I live, I can't plant anything here, right? I can't, because it's a residential area. So you can't engage in commercial activities like that because it's gonna cause problems, right? So it's not like I can have a business running out of the yard. You can't do that. But let's just say maybe that's the only way. But you can't work for another person because you're just not going to have the time to do it. Because most of these jobs are full-time jobs that require your full attention, and that is what people do not understand. You get it? And so there is this, like I said, there's this disconnect between the people who are employing people and the wider society. Like this guy was saying, boy is looking for somebody with a passion for the job. And I notice when I go in these interviews, it's the same bullshit question they're asking from when my mother was looking for a job. My mother is 78 years old. How the hell you're still asking the same questions from 18, 90, 100 years ago in 2025? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Tell me about yourself. The fuck? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Do you like working on a team? I don't fucking like working on a team. Why should we hire you? Because you're hiring. Like what the actual, like people ask you the same stupid question and they can't get it. It's like these people are robots, they are NPCs. They can't get it through their brains that none of this is going to give you any indication as to whether I am a good fit. The interview cannot tell you if I am a good fit or not. It can't. Because some people are very good performers. So they'll come and they do well in the interview and they get the job and they don't know their mother from a broomstick. They can't do anything. They can't make heads or tails. They just can't manage. Because I've seen it happen time and time again. They charm the interviewers and then they come to work and they can't follow simple instructions. And you're sitting here like, how the fuck did you pass this interview? How did you get here? And then there are some people who bomb at interview because they're nervous and, it's kind of like, it's the same thing with tests. Some people just can't do tests. I can recall when I went into this test. It was like one of the most dreaded exams when I was doing ACCA. And I pulled a fucking blank. I studied to the point before they called us to say, hey, we're ready. The exam is going to begin in 5 minutes. I was going through Managing Cost and Finance. Do I still have that damn book? I think I sold it. Yeah, no, I didn't. Managing Cost and Finances. What if I can show you? See it here. Managing Cost and Finances. I think it's this one, right? When I was doing CA. And I went in the exam Opened the paper, and I could not remember nothing. I couldn't remember nothing. My mind went blank. Could not remember jack shit. And I looked. I don't remember if it was left or right, and there was a girl from my, because there were we went to like an exam center, not our official school, right? There was an exam center because this is ACCA, so the tuition provider was not the one setting the exam. This is coming from the U. The exam comes from ACCA in the UK, and they sent it to the University of the West Indies. So we were being invigilated by the University of the West Indies. So we had to go to the University of the West Indies to sit the exam, right? So I looked and I saw one of the girls from my class, and she was blank. She was blank too, and I'm like, what the actual fuck? I could not remember anything, and I literally just guessed 50 questions. I guessed all 50 questions, and somehow, by the grace of God, I passed. I think I remembered something where they said if you don't know, you select B for, so you select B for everything, right? All the answers you just shade B or something like that, right? And that's what I did. And I got 50%. And when I came out, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I failed the exam because I couldn't remember anything, right? But I passed. And like what I'm trying to say is that there is this archaic format to interviews, and I think they do it deliberately because, of course, they want to try. It's a form of deterrence. So when you get the job, right? Because the job hunting process is so, they make it so difficult, they make it so unattractive. You are now forced to stay in your job because you just can't, just the thought, because this is what happened to me while I stayed at Holiday Inn for 11 years, even though I was being paid crap, because I just could not be bothered. Well, there were two things. I'm like, all of the hotels are paying the same money, so there's no point in leaving to go to another hotel when I'm going to be paid relatively the same. It's just going to be a different hotel, same pay. So what's the point, right? And then just thinking about having to go through the interview process, I'm not fucking doing this shit. And that is and I think it is also, I think that is part of the strategy why they make these interviews so, and like you waste 3 hours. And the last interview I did, right, was, I went there from 9 o'clock in the morning, and I left about 12. So home 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 3 hours. 3 hours. And mind you, I have a degree, and it was for a hotel. So it's not like, okay, I have a degree in hospitality management, and this was for a hotel, right? And the job that I was applying for, I have experience in the role. So it's not like, they needed to go, and there's no consideration for your qualification. You have to do the same test. They're giving us this fucking test. How many square miles? Like, I don't fucking remember that. I'm 100 years old. Like, that's not something with like, knowledge like that is not stored in short-term memory because you don't use it. Asking me how many square miles is Jamaica? I don't fucking know. Well, I don't remember because that's not a conversation I have on a regular basis. Asking me all these questions about, the history of certain stuff is like, what good does that do? Like, we have the fucking internet. If a guest, the job that I was applying for, I would not frequently interface with the guest anyway, right? So it's not like I would have been on the front desk and blah blah blah. And even then, you just Google it. Like, the fuck, it's 2025. No, you don't know the answer to something. You Google it or you ask Alexa if you're that sophisticated. You don't, like, most of this stuff you to know off the top of your head. And because it is not standard, they literally have these exams. So you're going, and you have a fucking degree and they're giving you a test. I said, why the fuck are you giving me, like, it is one of the most vexing. It's like, I can understand if you have a range of people coming in, and then maybe somebody does not have any they don't have a degree, they probably don't have any subject, whatever the case might be. They send in an application, but the qualifications are not up to par. Okay, fine, you can give them an exam. Why are you giving someone with years of experience in the industry 3 different certifications in the same industry, plus a fucking degree, plus a diploma, and several certificates? You're giving me the same exam that you're giving everybody else. How many parishes are in Jamaica? Who is the minister of tourism? How many square miles? Jamaica is true or false? Jamaica is the 3rd largest island in the Caribbean. True or false? Jamaica is a part of. Like, why the fuck are you giving me these questions? And this is at a hotel, a prominent hotel in me. And you invite me to an interview to insult me like you fucking stupid ass. And this is all the workplaces do that. And and I'm sitting here and I'm like, I just don't want to apply it because these fucking people. And so the disrespect starts from the interview process. The disrespect, because it's disrespectful to me. I remember they gave me a test on currency exchange, right? And I did the thing. And the lady said, the front desk manager came back and was asking me a bunch of questions about, have you ever had to pay back, had you ever had to pay back any money I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I don't. So that's never in all the time that I've worked at the hotel, I've never had to pay back money to the hotel. That's just never happened. I was like, are you sure? Was there blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, where's this coming from? She was saying that I didn't pass the test. No, all of this were about currency conversion, and I worked as a cashier. Like literally, cashiering function was my way. At the time, this was back when they had traveler's check. And everything was manual. You had to write up the receipt. There was a control sheet. And write receipt number, the guest name, the guest room number. Everything was manual. And this bitch is going to tell me. So of course, I had screenshotted the test, right? And so I put it in ChatGPT to like, what is she talking about? Like, did I misinterpret the questions? And I asked ChatGPT to work it out. And it came back with the answers that I came back with. So I'm like, how the fuck was my, oh, why is she saying that I failed the exam? Because, it's like, it's, there are two rules, Let's say if you're converting from US to Jamaican, you would multiply because the US is valued more than the Jamaican dollar. So if it's 1 US, right, it will be 1 US times whatever the Jamaican rate of exchange is. It's just that simple. And then if you're going to convert it back to US, you would divide, which is what I did. So I'm like, who the fuck did, like, so I'm sitting there like, okay, so the person who is marking the thing obviously does not understand how to exchange currency. Because the lady saying I got the questions wrong. And I'm like, I'm 100% sure. Obviously I didn't argue with her. I'm like, that's strange, but whatever, right? So like, these are the things that they're doing. Like, somebody comes in with years of experience, years of qualification, and you're still giving them tests. Why? They're still giving you these tests. And the next interview that I do, I don't want to do another interview, to be honest. I just don't want. That's why I need to finish this damn book. Because I can't be fucking bothered with working for people. I cannot be. I am tired. I can't be bothered. You're going to an interview with 20 years of experience, a fucking degree, certification, this, that, and the third, and they're giving you a test. Like, are you out of your fucking mind? They're giving you a test. It's like, these people are fucking robots. So there is no consideration, because I can understand, if you're the caliber of people that you're attracting are, you need to test their computational skills, or you need to test this, or you need to test that. Okay, fine, cool, no problem. But when you see somebody comes in with certain qualification, because when I went to Hartrust NTA, I did not do any exam. When I went to the interview and people were saying, oh, the exam was hard, I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, you didn't do an exam? I'm like, no, I didn't. Like, what are you talking? So at this point now I'm panicking because I'm like, I didn't do any exam, so like, what's going to happen to me? Because I'm here for the interview and I don't know. Everybody's saying they did an exam and I'm like, I don't know what exam are you talking about? But I didn't need to do the exam because I had passed my subjects. I had passed my CXCs. So because I had the qualification, the exam was not necessary. So the people who didn't have English, so they had to do English and math. I didn't, because I had a distinction in English. So why would you then give me a test in English? I've passed English at the national level, English language at the national level with distinction. Why would you then give me a test to do English? That doesn't make any sense. You understand? And this is what they're doing. I have accounting. I have a diploma in accounting. I have certificate in accounting. But you're giving me basic accounting stuff. Like, why the fuck would you do that? Because at the end of the day, of course, if you're not actively using the knowledge, there's just certain things that you're just not going to remember. But it's like riding a bicycle. Once you get into the task, it's going to come back to you. And I still have my books. What the fuck are you giving me an exam? Like, me not being, even if I can't, because, putting somebody on the spot is not an indication of their attitude. It's not. I have never, in all the time that I've worked and had held any job, I have never, ever had an issue where they're like, this guy just can't manage. It's never happened. What has happened is that I come in and I revolutionize the role, elevated it to the height of what it can be. Because more often than not, a lot of people, they go into the job, and if they are told, oh, you have to put this here, guess what? If they're working there for 10 years, that's exactly what they do. They don't know why they're doing it, and they don't ask why, and they don't try to find a more efficient way of doing what they're doing. So for the 10 years, they're doing the same thing. Okay, let's put it here, so. And that's what they do. And then you come in and like, why are we putting this here? And nobody can tell you. Is there a reason why we're putting? And when you go and you find and you dig and you dig and you dig, it's like, well, it was just something that we were doing, so you don't have to do it anymore. Literally. And it's like, okay. Like, this happens, so like almost everywhere I go is the same thing. People are employed, they are shown how to do the task one specific way, and they don't bother to analyze and say, is there a more efficient way to do this? They don't. Forever long they're there, that's exactly what they continue to do, and more often than not, it's a laborious process. And I'm not going to work hard, I'm going to work smart. I'm very sorry. I'm not here to work hard for nobody. I'm going to work smart. So if I come in and like, okay, but this is too complicated. Like, why we are do all of this? There has to be a simpler way to do it. And I'm not going to stop until I figure it out. Of course, you have to understand the role. So I'll ask a lot of questions. Of course, sometimes they're annoyed with me, but I don't give a fuck. I'm like, okay. And once I get it, I have my notepad and I write everything out. I'm like, okay. And then I go through each step and I'm like, oh, so we don't need to do this because it's basically overlapping. Or, oh, we can just do this, or oh, whatever. I can just drop it in a spreadsheet, or we can just create a macro for this. Because I've done that. There was a laborious process that took about 1.5 hours. And I said to the manager, I'm like, have IT create a macro. It can be automated because it is not a critical report, but it's a report that we have to do for reasons, right? And I'm like, but it's taking 1.5 hours of our time. It's taking too long, and it can be automated. And of course, because I suggested it, I had to work with the IT guy, right? And I was practically new. Luckily, I had, taken a lot of notes on the subject. Oh, this one come out. Luckily, I had taken a lot of notes on this subject because, they called me in this big ass meeting with the other managers from overseas, and I had to explain. And I'm like, I'm just here 4 months, like the fuck. And it was a very complicated process that most of the other staff did not understand, because I was the one that them push it on, because I kind of at first I had to do 2 training because I'm like, listen, I don't understand this shit. And I called one of the other. I said, listen, I need another training because I'm just not getting it, right? But of course, people, they'll just shy away from it. But I'm like, at the end of the day, the last thing I'm going to be considered as at work is incompetent. That's never gonna happen. So if there's something that I don't know, I'm not going to. And if I have to go to the GM to train me because he's the one who knows it best, I'm going directly to the GM and say, sir, I need you to train me on this because I'm just not getting it. That's me. So I'm like, who is the best person to train me on this specific thing? And they're like, oh, this person is the best person. And I go to them and say, hey, yo, I don't understand this shit. I've had training before, but it's just not clicking. Can you go through it? Can you walk me through it again? And of course, I'd record the entire session, and I would replay it and take notes and do literally like practice until I get it. And they're like, oh. So luckily I was doing that. So I had all these managers, and I had to explain this fucking process, and I'm just 4 months into the goddamn job, right? And they created an automated. So we just click a button and it populates. Of course, we had to download the report and save it as a specific format in a specific folder for it to pull the information. But that was like anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, right? And once the reports are saved, you just open the Excel and you click the button and it pulls all the information in, and that's the report. Under 10 minutes and you're done. But all these people have been doing this laborious task for 10 years, and nobody thought about, wait a minute, why don't we ask IT if the process can be automated? And now you have, of course, we still have to go through, there's a physical, we have to validate. So we have to validate the report against another report, which over time you were just checking off the numbers, because we're looking at figures in terms of expenses, right? So you're just basically looking at the large expenses and taxes, right? Whether what is being remitted to the states, what is remitted to the federal government, what is being remitted to Medicare, Medicaid, whatever the case, Social Security, whatever. So you're just going, okay, this is 4 million, 5 million, 150,000, 150. It was basically like that. And over time, you develop a rhythm to just going through it, and you can be done in 15 minutes fast, but it's still down from 1.5 hours, right? When you have to go, so what you'd have to do now is write. So in the Excel, you'd have to write in all the figures. So as opposed to just cross-checking, you have to be filling in them manually, and sometimes manually calculating some of the stuff. So that took a lot of time, and it was a lot of information, right? And nobody thought, wait a minute, we can automate this. So that is one of the things that happened. And then when we're looking at certain, there is this disconnect, like I said, in the hiring process. And I think, well, I don't know if it's a disconnect or it's deliberate, because they're like, okay, well, we're making the hiring process so laborious and vexing and frustrating that once you get the job, we could, no matter how much we mistreat you, you're going to be disincentivized to leave because you're traumatized. You have this post-traumatic syndrome of the experience that you had before with the hiring process, that you're like, I don't want to have to go through that again. I'm just going to stick with this job and tough it out until, of course, it can no longer literally sustain you. Then you may be forced to leave. And I think that's what they do, because it's like, why are you asking me to do an exam? And of course, the next, I'm like really not looking. I'm praying to the stars. I'm praying to the gods. I'm praying to the universe. Like, I don't want to fucking work for no. I don't want to go through that interview process again. I cannot deal with it, because if I go in an interview and they ask me what are my strengths and weaknesses, I go to fuck off and get up and come out. Don't ask me that. Tell me what the job entails and ask me if this is something that I think. Because there's no way you can judge me from an interview. Because I can come and I can give a stellar performance. It just means I'm a good actor. It has no bearing on whether or not when I come to work on day one, I'm going to be able to execute the way that you think I would be. None. It has no bearing. I'm just very good at interviews. Because there are some people who are very good at interviews. I'm very good at manipulating people. And I've seen it. They pass the interview, they impress everybody, and they get the job, and they don't know anything. And in no time, they're out of there, because they just literally cannot do the job. And everybody's looking like, then how the fuck did they pass the interview? because the interview has nothing to do with your ability to execute. And these idiots who are these recruiters, they don't understand that. Me coming into an interview to impress you don't mean jack shit. You cannot be preoccupied with my performance in the interview, because that does not tell you anything. To me, it's better you get 2 solid recommendations from the person, call them and say, hey, should I hire this dude? And even then, because if it's the person's friend, they're not going to tell you anything bad anyway. Right? So even, but I would rather call the workplace and figure out who we work with or who the person work with, and see if you can get in touch with any of those persons and be like, hey, I know it can be jaundice, because if somebody doesn't like you, then they're going to give you a bad recommendation. Right? But if you are, if you're smart, you can cut through the preamble. You can know what his opinion, because I don't care about whether you like them or not. I care about whether or not they were good at the job, right? Because as long as the person was good at the job, then as far as the culture is concerned, you're not going to know until they're inserted in the culture and you observe how they assimilate. Because they may just not have been a culture fit for the previous organization. It's just that simple. And they come here and they mesh with most of the people, and it's not a problem. So you can't even use that. You have to give. I know people, we're looking for the best of the best, but you're not paying. You can't be out here looking for the best of the best when you're not paying for that. And this is one of the, I don't understand these fucking people. Oh, you're looking for the best candidate for the job, but you're not. The pay is not like you're not paying. Your pay is not saying I am looking for the best candidate for the job. So how are you looking for the best candidate for the job, but you don't want to pay for that? I don't understand. That is literally why you pay your CEOs such big salaries, because you have to attract and keep them. So how is it that when it comes to staff, you want to attract the best, but you have no intention of paying to let them stay? It makes absolutely no fucking sense. So why are we doing interviews? Look through a bunch of resumes and you call in one of the person so you get the job, instead of wasting fucking time going through all this long 3-hour interview with no goddamn fucking reason. Because at the end of the day, the job that I just left, I was the best person for that job. I was the star person on the team, right? The most reliable, most competent, and they absolutely did nothing to keep me. So it's like, if the staff is replaceable, what's the point of the interview? Just hire somebody. Look at the qualification that they have. Okay, they have a degree, they have this amount of experience. You pick one. Pick one of the resume, call the person you got the job. It's just that simple. Because what's the point? What's the whole point of going through the process if at the end of the day you're not going to offer them an attractive compensation? Because there's nothing in their mind, They're looking for the best candidate. So they bring you through this long fucking interview asking you a bunch of dumbass questions. Sometimes they don't even know what the answer should be because they don't know what they're looking for. Half of these people are fucking dumb. They're dimwits. They're NPCs. So they just go through the motion asking you these questions, giving you this ridiculous fucking test. Like, why are you giving me a test? I have a degree. I have experience. Why are you giving me a test? This is for people who have no qualification. Why are you giving someone with qualification a test? What is the fucking test supposed to prove? It makes no fucking sense. But this is what they do because they're robots. Right? So you're trying to attract the best person for the job and then you lowball them. Like, it's madness. They are trying to attract the most suitable candidate for the position. And then when it comes to the compensation, they are underpaying you. Make it make sense. So, like, what was the point of you trying to select the best person? What's the point? Because to me, if you select the best person for the job, it simply means that the compensation that you're offering them should be in the upper quartile of the pay scale. And by that I mean, let's say the role, you budgeted for the role 1.5 million to 2.4 million. That's your budget. So the maximum amount you can offer is $2.4 million. If you employ the best candidate for the job, you should not start them out for less than maybe $2.2 million. Because that's your best. Right? But this is what happens. And I'm talking from personal experience. The role is valued at $1.4 million to $2.4 million. Right? You come in and they ask you, how much were you getting paid? Because they give you an application to fill out, which is another thing. I just don't understand these fucking people. I don't understand them. So you go online and you fill in an application form. They ask you for a cover letter, which is ridiculous because if I'm filling in an application form, why do you need a cover letter? Why do you need a cover letter? It does not make any sense to me. I'm filling in an application and you're asking for a cover letter. Anyways, you're filling the application form. They ask you for a cover letter and they ask you for a resume. So you fill in the application form, you put your cover letter, you attach your resume. Good. They call you in for the interview. When they call you in for the interview, the first thing they do is they sit you down in a room with a bunch of other people that they call for the same work, and they give you an application form to fill out. I'm talking, this is literally what happened to me every single time I applied for a job. every single time I applied for a job. You fill out the application online, and when you go to the interview, the first thing that they give you to fill out is an application form with the same fucking information. And they're asking you for stuff that is on your resume. God, I'm tired. I am sick and tired. The application form is asking you for stuff that is on your resume that you have submitted. It covers stuff that is in the cover letter that they asked you for. So you fill out this application form, which is going to take you anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. This is a waste of fucking time, you know. So you fill in the application form. You sit down there and you have to wait 5 minutes before somebody come and they collect the form. Or you finish, yes. Then they want your ID and your tax registration number and your other documents to photocopy. And it's like, okay, there are 10 of us in here. And only one of us going to get the job. Why are you taking our information? You collect that information after you, that is something that the person should show proof of to say, hey, we need to know that you have these things, right? Just so there are no hiccups, whatever, because we need your TRN, we need your national insurance number, you need a national ID, right? And of course, we need to see the original copies of your qualifications. Those are things that you can eyeball, right? For each candidate. Why? So they take copies of all these things, you know. So if you don't get the job, they have your intimate details. Why you're only going to hire one person and you're taking everybody's information? Why? So next, they photocopy your information. So that's another 10 minutes, right? So now you're there 40 minutes, almost an hour. There's no interview yet. Then they come with a test. And they say you have 30 minutes to do it. Then they say you have 30 minutes to do the test. And of course, I've seen one of the tests that I did, I could barely read anything on the paper. It was so, the ink was fine and smudged, so it feels like they had a photocopy or a image. Sorry. It's like they had a photocopy or an image of the original thing, and they print it out. So it had that, it was smudged, the ink was smudged. So the ink wasn't from the printer itself. It's like they had an image of the test, and that's what they printed out, right? So it was smudged and it was very fine, and I don't know how they printed it because there was no margin. You know, when you open like a Word document, there is where you start writing is about 1.5 inch away from the top of the page, 1.5 inch away from the side of the page. There is no margin, just to show you, right? And it was like a sea of letters, and they were so fine. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? And it was on both sides, right? And I had half an hour, I think, too. And they were just asking some weird questions, mathematical questions, by the way, that made no sense, that had to do without even decimal points and stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck? Right? And of course, you have to sit there now. Mind you, I have a high school diploma. I have a diploma in accounting. I have a diploma in business. I have a certificate in supervisory management. I have a degree in hospitality management. I have a diploma in general accounting. I have a diploma. And it's like, why the fuck am I doing this? Why am I doing this test? Why am I wasting 30 minutes of my time to do this fucking test? And then I can barely read what is on the paper. So you sit there for half an hour to 45 minutes. Because of course, you get half an hour to do it, but they're going to take their own jolly good time to get back to you, right? So that's another 45 minutes. So now you're there 90 minutes. 90 minutes is how many hours? 1.5 hours. You are now in this interview. So they take the test, and I guess they go mark it to see if you pass to determine whether or not you should move on to be actually interviewed by an actual person. I don't fucking know. And so you're sitting there waiting another 10-15 minutes. So that's now a whole 145 minutes. Until you're finally called into the interview, and that is going to last 45 minutes. So that's 145 plus 15, that's 2 hours. 2 hours and 30 minutes you're looking at. Right? And that is if it's only one person going to interview. Because if it's 2 persons, God help you. And if it's a panel, it's going to be at least an hour or more. Right? And of course, if there are persons being interviewed before, you have to wait. So it's going to take a little bit longer, because that's how I ended up at that place for 3 hours. Because it was the same thing. And they gave me a bunch of forms I have to sign that if government introduce COVID policy again, I'm going to wear mask and take vaccine. I'm like, I'm not fucking signing this. I'm not going to sign anything with you to say I will take a COVID vaccine. I'm not doing that. So I didn't get that job. Because I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? I must sign thing with you. You're not a doctor. And you're telling me, in order to get the job, I have to sign away my right to a medical intervention? I'm like, I'm not signing this. Because you have no right to tell me that. You can't tell me I have to take a vaccine if the government decide that COVID is back and everybody needs to. I'm not doing that. These people are like, and it's like you're talking to a dead person. There's nobody home. They're robots programmed to do what they're programmed to do. There's no nothing. There's no reasoning with them. There's no talking to them. There's no getting through to them. Nobody's home. It's, oh my God. Then I think the girl said, "Oh, but you don't look like the person in the picture." And I'm like, girl, in the picture, so at the time I needed a haircut. I mean, I hadn't cut my, because I was beginning to grow my hair out. So of course my hair was like high, right? But I was like, I got lined up and everything. And in the picture, my head was, well, because I don't bald, but I had a haircut. Like my hair was very low. And she's saying, "Oh, but it doesn't look like you." I'm like, do you look the same when you put on a fucking wig? Like, God, people just don't understand how ridiculous these interviews are. Like, these people are like zombies, and it is so, like, it's one of the most, I'm looking and I'm like, boy, we're not supposed to go out here telling people to wake up, because when you wake up in this world, you want to die. I don't belong here. I don't know. I don't belong here, because I'm talking to zombies, and I cannot. It's like once your eyes are open, you can't close them. Like, you can't unknow what you know. You know what I mean? Like, you can't unknow what you know, and then you're dealing with these fucking zombies, and they just don't understand. Like, you're a glitch in the fucking matrix, and everything in you is repulsed by what they're doing, and you just can't help but it's like a sneeze. You can't help but it's like if you see a rock being hurled at you, you're going to involuntarily, your body's going to move on its own. You know what I mean? Your body's going to move on its own, unless of course you know that the rock, I'm Superman, it's not going to do many things, I'm not going to move, unless it's something like, but as a human being, you see something coming at you, you're going to shift. And it's an involuntary reaction. It's the same thing that is happening to me when I'm in these workplaces, and when I have to go deal with these. They are like fucking zombies. They can't understand that what they're doing does not make any sense, or it violates your rights, or it is wrong. Like, it's just outright wrong. They can't understand that. Somebody cannot understand why they do not have a right to tell you that you have to take a vaccine. They don't seem to grasp that concept in their mind. You're not a doctor. You can't tell me, because you don't know my medical history. So how are you telling me I have to sign that if the government institute a vaccine mandate, I will take the vaccine to get your job? Bitch, so if the vaccine fucks me up, because there's nothing in there to say, and if you take that vaccine and anything happens to you, then we will be responsible for that. You're not saying that, but you're telling me I have to take the vaccine. But I have to deal with the consequences if those consequences should arise. That doesn't make any sense to me. And this is the problem. Like, this is what because I'm like, I'm looking now, and I'm like, boy, I'm watching I haven't even checked my account to see how much money is in there. Right? I'm not going broke. But I'm like, I can't do it. I don't know. Because I just can't go through the interview process again. I can't do it. I'm not going to sit there and tell you about myself. There's nothing about me that you need to fucking know. Because I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to do the work, and your bumbleclad pay me, and I go home. It's just that simple. I'm not telling you about myself. I have no strengths or no fucking weaknesses that you need to know about, because I ain't got shit to do with the job. Because if I have strengths and weaknesses, it simply means that I'm not able to perform the job. What does my strength and weakness have to do with the job? Nothing. I can either do the job or I can't. Telling you about my strengths and weaknesses is not going to help. It's not going to give you any indication as to whether or not when I come and I am employed, I can execute. It's not. Telling you why I should hire you. Why the fuck did you call me in this interview? The fact that I am sitting in front of you simply means that I have met the minimum requirement for the job. That's the only reason why I'm in the interview. Why the fuck are you asking me this question? I'm not going to try to convince you to hire me over the other person, because I'm not that desperate for no fucking job. Tell me about the job, and ask me questions about the actual job to see if I'm going to be able to. That's what you're supposed to be. You want to determine if I can do this fucking job. Because as far as the work culture is concerned, there's nothing that you can ask me that is going to prepare me for the culture. Nothing. There is nothing that you can ask me that is going to prepare, that's going to tell you whether or not I'm a good culture fit. Because at the end of the day, I may be the person, I don't like working in a team. And then I go, and the people on my team are people that I get along with. We just click. Because it happens. And it's like, well, I don't like working in a team, but I like these people. So you can't, there's no way for you to know. I love working in a team, but the people on my team are bitches and monsters. And backstabbers. I don't fucking like these niggas. So guess what? I don't like this team. It has nothing to do with me liking to work on a team. It has to do with these individuals that are on my team. I don't fucking like them. You see what I'm saying? So there's no way, because they keep, do you like working on a team? Why are you asking me that? And I'm just sitting here like, if I go in, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pass another interview, because why do you like working on a team? Like, why are you asking me that? Like, what does that have to do with the job? Because if I have to work with people, that's a part of the job. That's what you're paying me for. So it doesn't matter whether I like to work on a team or not. That has nothing to do with anything. If I am a manager, I'm going to be in charge of a number of people. Anywhere between 5 and up, 5 people and above. So whether I like people, like working with people, don't like, it's a part of the job, and I am a professional, so I'm going to do my job. I don't need to like the people working. There is nothing in the rule book that says I need to like these people. I don't. I don't need to like what I am doing to do the job effectively. I don't. And people don't understand that. When if I am doing the dishes, I don't like doing dishes. I'm doing the dishes because they're dirty. If I am cleaning my apartment, I'm not cleaning the apartment because I love cleaning my apartment. I fucking don't. It's dirty and I'm gonna clean it. It's just that simple. If I need to take out the trash, I'm not taking out the trash because, oh my god, I just love taking out trash. I don't. I'm taking out the trash because the trash bag is full. So I need to take it out. It's that simple. Like, what is wrong with these fucking people? You don't have to like something. I don't like living, but I am alive. What am I gonna do about it? I don't like working, but at the end of the day, the way the society is set up, if you don't work, you can't eat. Unless of course you're going to retire to the wilderness and live off the land, which I'm not prepared to do. And even if you do that, you will not have access to modern conveniences. You understand? Because if you generate your own electricity, you're still gonna have to buy the appliances because you can't make them yourself. I can't make a TV, right? I can't make a cell phone. I can't make a computer. And then you would need access to the internet, which you'd have to pay for, because there's like, how are you gonna access the internet? Unless you find some way of doing it illegally, in which case they may find you and arrest you anyway. You get what I'm saying? So to live in the civilized world, you have to work. There's just no getting around it. Because if you need electricity, because even if you're generating your own electricity, there's some regulations around that. You can't just do it by yourself. You gotta get the government involved. It's kind of fucked up, right? But you're still gonna need, okay, I need to watch TV, I need a cell phone, I need a laptop or a computer or whatever the case might be. You gotta pay for those things. And you need certain cooking appliances or whatever. You're not gonna make your own pot. You're not gonna make your own cast iron pot. So you're gonna have to buy one, right? Maybe you can make your own wooden spoons and forks. I don't know if people actually do that shit, but you would be better. It would be more easy. It would have a whole lot easier if you can just buy it together. So of course you can make plates out of calabash or whatever. Those are really nice. So you can make cup out of bamboo, but I don't know how to do that shit, right? But you can make, certain kitchen implements out of wood and stuff, which is a whole lot better than the plastic that we have. But I don't know how to do that shit, right? And like I said, I don't want to, you know, I like enjoying modern convenience because we've come a long way. 100 years ago, people didn't have all of this stuff. So why would I want to go back to the Stone Ages? That doesn't make any fucking sense. That's why we advance. That's why we evolve. And so we need to bask in that. So of course you have to work. So I'm working because I have to, not because oh my god, I just love working. I fucking don't. So asking me these questions it's dumb. Asking me about the company, like bitch, unless I am supposed to be doing marketing or sales or whatever, I don't need to know jack shit about the company because ain't nobody gonna ask me anything about the company. Because anybody's not gonna ask anything about the company, I am sure you'd want me to refer them to the public relations manager and not give out any information on my own. Because 9 out of 10 times when people are asking about the company, they want you to refer them to public relations. They don't want you to talk to anybody. So I don't need to know anything about the company. And I'm sure I will learn that when I get the job. Like, why do I need to know about your company? Because what is out there is not what I need to know anyway. I need to know if you're motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I need to know if this is a toxic work environment. But how am I going to know that? That information is not publicly available. Because what we see is a curated image. It's the image that you have created in the public space. So that doesn't help me to choose why I want to work for you. And I know sometimes people go, oh, your company is bullshit. And these are the things that I hate. Like, oh, your company is this and your company is that, blah, blah, blah. That's what is out in the public domain. They're not going to put anything bad out there about themselves. So the information is neither here nor there. It's not germane to anything. You understand? So, and it's one of the things that vexes me when it comes to interviews, because now I'm looking at like, I don't want to do another interview. It's a waste of my fucking time because you're gonna have me there for 3 hours, and I know when what I'm going to do is, which maybe I'm just not gonna get a call for an interview, because when they say, oh, we get your resume, I'm just gonna be like, hey, how long is this going to take? Because I would like some respect for my time. If I'm going to have to come there and do a test and spend 3 hours, I'm not prepared to do that. Which is reasonable, but it's like they're gonna be like, well then fuck you. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I'm not coming to spend 3 hours I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing no test. And it's like, if you have an application, these things can be done before the person reaches. So when I come, if you say, okay, you have a 10 o'clock appointment, I'm supposed to come and 10 o'clock, I go into the interview, 15 minutes, I'm out. But these people, you come and you sit down for sometimes half an hour. 1 hour, you're like, hey, what's going on? Like, sometimes I have to remember, say, oh, because this has happened to me before. Oh, you can have a seat. 1 hour later, I am still sitting there, nobody, not even a glass of water, nothing. This is what happens. And it's like, what the actual fuck? So you're literally sitting there. It's like, wait, but if this is the case, then you could have told me that you could have pushed the interview 1 hour ahead, instead of having me come and waste an hour of my time. It happens all the time. You go and you're sitting there for half an hour to an hour before anything happens, right? And then it's like, you're going through security, and security, there's this rigmarole to get through security. Like, shouldn't they be aware that, okay, we're having interviews today, and then you can have one security dealing with people who are coming, especially if you're having a lot of people. Okay, you have one security dealing with those persons, so you can get the thing flowing through. You can just get the, maybe you have an area where you can, so instead of barring them at the gate, You can just take them to the area and then you can, they have a seat and you can go through their stuff. They're treating you like regular staff. So you bungle up out there like some, and it's just, and it was one of the things I hated about Sanders when I went to Sanders, the way I was treated when I went for the interview. And I'm like, I would never. And I know I hear, people like, oh, it's not that. I'm like, my experience, nope. It scarred me. The experience scarred me. I was treated like a proper slave on a plantation. When I say a proper slave, I was livid. But the problem was, one of my lecturers, they were the one. So I did not apply. I didn't set anything up. It was the institute. So I had to do training at this hotel as to get my certification. So I had to do the training, otherwise I wouldn't get the certification, right? So I had to endure the treatment because I had no choice because I needed the certification. I went there 8 o'clock in the morning. This is Sandals. And I'm thinking, Sandals is the best hotel in the world, in Jamaica, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, me coming out of training school and wanting to go into the hotel to work was obviously contemplating Sandals or whatever the case might be. I had a prior experience where we did a tour. So the institution took us to several hotels. And Sandals was the only one who never offered us anything. So the other hotels, after we walked around, they took us to the bar and said, okay, you guys can order a fruit punch or an orange juice. Right? And we got a drink because, we did a sort of a mini tour. It was not a typical property walk as you would give a travel agent, but it was just because we were students and they were just showing us around and the different areas and acclimatizing us to what it would look like if we were working in the hospitality environment. And then at the end, they offered us a drink, right? Sanders was the only hotel that didn't. I don't remember which of the Sanders it was. It was so long ago. This was like in 2004. And so from then I was kind of like, okay, I had a little asterisk, but whatever. And then I happened to, because I was one of the star students, so of course Sanders was the prime, so they wanted, they would place their best and brightest at the top hotels because you want to ensure that the reputation of the institution is preserved. So they would put the best and brightest with the top class hotels and then distribute the others to the remaining hotels. So I was selected to go to Sanders, and it was top class property. And my lecturer was like, "Don't make sure you're not late." Of course, I stayed at her house because I didn't live in the location where the hotel was. I had no family, friends, relative, whatever. So she lived there. So she had a spare room. I stayed in the spare room. I got up early in the morning and off to the interview. So of course, I arrived 7 o'clock. The interview was supposed to be 8 o'clock. I arrived at 7. Now, obviously, of course, I thought I would have been given a seat in the lobby to wait until the HR personnel. I don't know why I was being interviewed because it wasn't a job. It was for the training. So there was an agreement between the institution and the hotel to train the people coming out of the institution in order for us to get to work. It's a national qualification. And the training aspect it's mandatory. It's a part. If we do not do the training, we cannot get the certification, right? So I don't know what the interview was for. I don't know. I don't think it should have been an interview because when the HR lady finally showed up at 11 o'clock, she was like, "Why are you standing out here?" So I went from 7, right? And of course, I don't know this place. I've never been. I was not familiar with the parish or anything. I wasn't familiar with anything, right? I took the bus and it stopped me at the gate and I see the hotel name out front. So I'm like, okay, at least I'm in the right place. And there was this long walk down, right? I told the security why I was there and I had to wait and then I had to call my lecturer to say, well, the security is saying that he doesn't have any information here about me, blah, blah, blah. So she had to call somebody and they say, okay, let him in, right? So that was the first thing. So they let me in and I walked. It took about 15 minutes to walk down because it was this long driveway, right? Walk down. Of course, I was going to the lobby here because, like, what am I going to? I'm going to the front desk to say, hey, I'm here for whatever. And I was accosted by one of the, I think it was bellhop or something, and they asked me why I was there. And I told them, and they told me how to go around the back. Oh, fine, no problem. So I went round back through a little gate, and there was like a little building standing by itself around the back, right? And it was like a loading area where the receiving clerk would receive the goods and count them out and blah, blah, blah. But the building was to the side, and that's where HR was, right? So, of course, I don't like so the HR, like the HR is not here as yet, and that's where HR. So and it was locked, right? And I left, and I'm standing there, and the delivery trucks are coming in, and I'm moving out of the way, and the sun came up, and the morning sun was no joke, right? And I'm standing there in the boiling sun. It's 1 hour later. I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, okay, they say it's 8 o'clock. Let me give her 15 minutes. 8:15, nothing. I'm like, okay, let me give her some more time. 9 o'clock, I called my lecturer. I said, Miss, I'm standing here. There's nobody. I don't know what to do. There's nobody here. HR is not here, and nobody's talking to me. I don't know what is going on. I feel, I feel some type of way. I'm just standing out here in the boiling fucking sun around the loading block with the trucks coming in and me having to move out of the way every time something drives in and drives out. She said, according they know you're there, just hold on. 10 o'clock, I'm like, I'm like this. Mind you, I had no breakfast because I got up very early to go to this damn place. I had no breakfast, right? So I'm standing out in the boiling fucking sun. Literally, so I've been now standing from 7, 8, 9, 10. I've been now standing for 4 hours around the back. This is Sundowns. 4 hours to stand up around at the back. And in the boiling sun, right? And nobody came to, like, because they could have, like, okay, HR is not, because the lady was pregnant. And I don't know if she, well, it's HR, I don't know if they called to say, hey, I'm not coming in or whatever. I don't know, whatever. But somebody could have said, hey, you know what? You can come inside, have a seat. As soon as HR arrives, we'll holler. Because there was nothing, when the HR lady came, she didn't do anything. She was like, why are you standing here? You're supposed to be at the front desk. And she called one of them to come and get me, and that was it. So I was literally standing around here for 5 hours for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And I was so angry. And I was going to leave. And the only reason, because I did not want to, you understand, because if I had gone for an interview, I would have left. But it was because it was from the institution, and I didn't want anything to happen with the relationship between the institution and the establishment. So I'm like, my lecturer was begging me, like, don't leave, it's okay, they know that you're there, just hold on, whatever. And I'm like, I know I'm poor, I know, but this is not it. I don't allow people to disrespect me. No matter how poor I am, no matter how dire my situation may be, I rather die. I would rather drop dead than have someone think that it is okay for them to treat me less than a human being. I'd rather drop dead. I don't need your help. I don't need your job. Fuck you. That's me. Right? So I'm like, listen, I don't allow this to happen. Like, why am I standing around here in the fucking boiling sun for how long and there's nobody, nobody come to say, because I'm like, it's a hotel. They could have me sit in the lobby. You know what I mean? Like, I am too good to sit in the lobby, but you want me to come and serve the guests? How does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense to me. Somebody should have invited me to sit in the lobby until HR arrives, or I could have sat in the wherever it is that I was supposed to work until HR arrived, because maybe 2004, 2005. I can't remember. I think it was about 2005 because I had left. I had graduated, but I needed to do the. I graduated, but I needed to. I think it was 2004. Whatever, it doesn't matter, right? And anyways, one of the girls finally came, got me. I went. They took me around the back. It was one of the weirdest shit. The way it's like you're not supposed to be. So I'm like, but I'm going to be on the front serving the guests anyway. I just don't understand why is it that I can just walk through the lobby. I had to in the back trenches. It was just fucking weird. And I'm like, I would never, in my mind, I'm like, I wouldn't work at this fucking place, because if this is how you're treating this stuff, like it's a proper plantation. It makes no sense, because I was going to be working at the front desk. So it's not like I was kitchen staff or whatever, which would be understandable. I'm supposed to be working in the front office area. What the fuck me if I walk around a loading dock? Like, how does that make sense? They're gonna see the guests are gonna see me because I'm there to interact with the guests. My certification is in front office procedures and hotel accounting. That's what my certification is in. So I'm going to be interfacing directly with the guests. What's the point of me walking around the loading back and through the back and round the back? And that doesn't make any fucking sense. Anyways, they took me into the back, and there was this old couch. I kid you not, there was an old couch with there was like a sinkhole in the couch, and that's what they told me to sit in. Now, remember, as a man, your back is supposed to be supported. So of course I sat down in this old couch that was this big old sinking in there, and then my back started to pain me, right? Because there was just no support, nothing. But I sat because I just didn't want to have any conversation. And they went and they got a binder this high with information and say I should read it because I need to know about Butch Stewart and from when he started ATL and a bunch of bullshit. And I'm sitting like, why do I need to know about this? I don't need to know about the owner. Why do I need to know about what Butch Stewart did? I'm here to train. I'm not a staff. I'm in my uniform. My name tag has my institution on it. It says trainee. The guests are not stupid. They're not going to ask me any questions or whatever. And if I don't know, they're going to understand that, oh, he's a trainee. So let me ask one of the senior staff, why do you give me a binder this fucking high with all this information that I need to learn? Like, what the fuck? Anyways, didn't want to rock the boat. Like I said, I wasn't there of my own volition. It was part of the certification, plus the institution as an arrangement with them. And I didn't want to be the one that caused that to sour. So I was going through and reading, and I'm sitting there like, this has nothing to do with why I'm here to train. I'm here to get that's the whole point. I need to have the practical experience so that I can get my certification. Why am I reading a manual? One of the guys, there was this guy in the operator room, and he looked and he realized that the manager wasn't there, and he came out and he's like, you can come in here. So I went inside, and he asked me if I have you used the telephone, have you operated a switchboard? I'm like, yeah, I'm very good at switchboard, very good at taking reservations because I had prior experience because the institution had a hotel and I used to go there regularly and man the switchboard by myself. So I was very good at taking calls. So it's like, okay, so you have the so why they have you sitting out there? I'm like, I don't know. He said, okay, tell you what. You're going to so there were two switchboards. He's like, you're going to pick up that one. I'm going to let you answer the outside calls and I take the inside one because the outside people won't know, you know, your voice, but the internal ones will realize that it's not me, and then they're probably gonna ask who is that on the phone or whatever. Right. So it gave me what the standard greeting was. Thank you for calling, da 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 da. You know, and I was like, you're good, you're good. I'm like, it's not that hard to answer telephone, right? So we had this little thing going back and forth because I didn't know the extension number. So somebody would call and say, thank you for calling such and such and such. This is such and such speaking. How may I direct your call? And they say, oh, may I be transferred to housekeeping? And I'm like, mute, housekeeping, 212. 1 moment, please, transfer there, call again. And so that's what was happening. So I'm like, no, I feel happy now that I'm actually doing something and getting some experience. Ras. The front desk supervisor, I don't know, I guess she came around there and she was looking for me and didn't see me, and then she looked in the thing and she saw me in there. And she called the guy on the phone. Because this is how these bitches are, It's always the women. I don't know why. This is one of the weird shit. It's always the women are always the monsters in the workplace. She called the guy on the phone. Because she could have just come in here like, hey, oh, you're supposed to be at the front desk. Come with me and the supervisor. She called the guy and admonished him. So he was like, I just got a call. You have to, you can't answer the phone anymore. They said they don't want you on the phone. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. Them say, I'm not supposed to let you use the phone. I'm like, okay, fine, I don't want to get you in any trouble because, but it was fun, whatever. So I went back out to sit because I had nothing to do. I literally had nothing to do. So I went back to sit in the old couch that they had there. And of course, I decided I'm not reading no fucking book. At this point, I decided I'm not going to read the binder because it's a waste of my time. Then one of the ladies, there's a girl from guest services. She came around and she said, oh, you're the new whatever. And she said, okay, you can come to lunch with me. So we went to lunch together. And we had lunch. The lunch was very good. Gotta give it. The canteen was really good. And then when I came back, she's like, I want you to work with me. Because, we had a little rapport and she liked my vibe. And she's like, I want you to work. You would do well at guest services. Because the lady didn't want me on the front desk. So the supervisor didn't want me on the front desk. So she was kind of like, where do we, what? And I mean, I'm like, bitch, I'm a trainee. I'm in the uniform from my institution. I have the name, my name tag says the institution and it says trainee. Guests are not stupid. They're going to know I'm a fucking trainee. Like, what the hell? And I'm not stupid. I'm obviously, if somebody comes and they're talking to me and I need us and I don't know how to assist them, I'm going to call one of the staff that is there. Like, what the fuck? And it's not going to, like, people are not stupid. They know trainees. They understand what a trainee is. So if you're not able to provide them immediate assistance with their query, they will understand. So she didn't want me on the front desk, even though that's what I was supposed to be doing. So the girl said, we'll take him over at guest services. She's like, but you guys don't need any help over there. I don't know what she did, but because there were two people at guest services, but they did work at the same time, was shift. There's a French lady and a Jamaican girl. The Jamaican girl, So somehow she convinced them to let me stay at guest services. So we went to guest services and we got to work. And I was enjoying myself, and we did because we were in charge of the VIP building. They had a VIP building. So we were in charge of the VIP building. So we had to go and check all the rooms, make sure that the minibar was stocked, make sure that the room was cleaned properly. So, you do your spot check, make sure that there's no dust, check under the bed, check stuff to make sure that the room was cleaned properly, because these are VIP guests and you don't want anybody to check in and have a problem. Of course, we had to check all the fixtures. So you turn on all the lights to make sure they're working. You turn the AC on, you turn the TV on, that sort of thing. That was our job. You make sure they had a bathrobe, bath slippers, ironing board. The minibar is stocked. We had to count the stuff. Because what would happen is that when they check out, they would count the stuff and charge them. So the minibar wasn't free. So if you drank anything, you have to pay for it. So the only way to know is to count the stuff. Oh, we have 2 beers, 2 Heineken, 2 this, 2 that, blah, blah, blah. They have like the little mini bottles or whatever. Right? So we had to do that. And of course, she showed me how to do it. And we went through the rooms and made sure everything was there. And then we took the a la carte reservations and we did the bookings just for the VIP people, not the regular guests. They had to go to the front desk. We do their restaurant reservations, we do their tours, and we go on. There is a scheduled tour that went into that. We had to go on it with them. Right? And we had to do the cocktail parties. So we had to go and mix and mingle with them at the cocktail parties, of course. So I was, the girls liked me and liked my ethic and were like, well, you're good. It's like, you have done this before, And at the cocktail party, the guests were flocking towards me because I wasn't because there's this thing where they want you to hide the culture. And the people are like, I come to Jamaica to experience Jamaica, not to experience America. You know what I mean? So they were getting this Americanized, whitewashed, kind of pretentious thing that was happening in the manager's cocktail party, where everybody's like uppity, and these are regular people who are on vacation. And so I would talk to them in my Jamaican accent, but in English, and we would talk about like just regular stuff, not the. I wasn't selling them the polished version of Jamaica. I would tell them, okay, don't stay in the hotel. You gotta go here. This is a good tour. Just showing them the ropes. So everybody was like, they were wondering like, is everyone over there? You know what I mean? Like they're looking at it and realizing like there was a crowd forming around me, and I was like, what the fuck? Then this damn bitch, I think she was the room division's manager or something, someone I knew, and she complained to say, I don't remember what the complaint was, because everybody was flocking to me because I was talking to them like, like they're human beings and not. Anyway, she had a problem with it. So she went and she made some complaints to somebody else who went back to this, because that's how they do it. That's how managers are. They're little bitches. They're not going to come to you and tell you, I have a problem with you. They're going to say to somebody, to maybe a manager who is below them, and that manager is going to say to a manager who is below them, and then that manager is going to say to a manager who is below them, and then that manager is going to say to the supervisor, and then the supervisor is going to come to you. That's how it works. And then, so that's literally what happened. So she went and I don't know who the fuck she told. She probably told the front desk manager, and then the front desk manager told the front desk supervisor, and the front desk supervisor told the girl, and then the girl told me. And I'm like, I'm in Jamaica, I'm Jamaican, I'm going to use my accent, I'm going to speak the dialect whenever I can. You can't tell me that I have to speak English all the time. Insofar as the guests understand what I'm saying, that is sufficient. It's not like they're looking at me like, what the fuck is he talking about? They understand that we are having dialogue, and insofar as communication is taking place, meaning is being effectively transferred, what's your problem? This is Jamaica. They come for a Jamaican experience. They don't want a fucking American accent. You understand? If they're understanding me, what's the problem? I'm like, first of all, I don't work for you. I am here on training. So your rules or whatever don't apply to me. They guests understand that I am a trainee. I am literally in my school uniform. And my name tag has my institution on it. And it says trainee, then I don't work for you. So like, what the fuck is your problem? Anyways, she was like, I'm not the one with these people, whatever. I said, well, then lucky. I'm not going to stop, whatever. Like, I had really good, because they were like, they should give you a job. So people were recommend going to the front desk and like, because I guess they do, I can't recall, I don't know if they did this at the hotel, but I know they do feedback forms. So they would recommend me, whatever. And for some reason, the front office supervisor, I never had, the one interaction I had with her was when she transferred me to the girl to say, okay, you'll be working with her. That was it. And for some reason, she just didn't like me. Like that was my one interaction with her. I was there for 3 weeks and I had that one interaction with her. But I don't know if it's because she was getting I don't know what it was, but this bitch just never liked me. Then after 3 weeks, she told them that they just didn't have any space. And I'm like, they're not paying me. I'm not getting a stipend. I am literally here. There's nothing that, because I was helped because how the desk is set up, it's really supposed to be 2 persons, but they had 1 person working on the desk. So of course, me being there was a huge help to the girl at the VIP desk, because she would say, okay, you do this, I do this. Right? And because she realized that I was a fast learner, so she just showed me, okay, you can take the reservation or you can call in. So we had to call in to the airport, because these are VIP people, right? So we check their flight. So we have to call the airport, get their flight, confirm their flight, whatever, and then send a letter to the room to say, your flight is tomorrow, you're leaving on XYZ flight. Of course, they had all this information, but it just basically, we have confirmed that the flight is on time and there are no delays, blah, 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 that sort of thing. And then we would tell them what their bill was, if they had a bill, and they could settle. We tell them how they could settle. They could settle with us over the phone, or they could settle when they check out at the front desk, right? They couldn't settle with us at the VIP desk because we didn't have that, or they would have to go to the front desk, right? So we send them that departure letter, right? So I would do the call, calling the airport and verifying the information and doing up the letter, and then we would call the butler to have it. Then obviously after you had all the letters, or because you would just give him one, you would send the butler with it to the rooms, or whatever. So she was like, I'm so glad you're here, because there's a lot of weight that comes off of me, because I was helping her and we were just getting along. She had no complaints. Our energy was just in sync and everything was fine. And we would go on the tour, and she liked my vibe on the bus, and how, because we'd go to the jewelry stores. There was a specific place that they take the people. I would like, listen, it's expensive in here, just, you know what I mean? So yeah, right. And like I was being offered tips, but then I couldn't take it like a dumbass. They had a policy where we could not accept tips, but I was at training and I was not being paid, so I should have taken the fucking tip. Guys, what were they gonna do? I wasn't employed by them, you know what I mean? But I didn't take the tips. So just looking back now, I'm like, I should have taken those fucking tips. But it is what it is, right? And then after 3 weeks, the lady was like, oh, we don't have any space for him, so we'll have to cut the training short. And that was it. And from that experience, I'm like, I would never work with Sandals. And in all the time that I've never applied. I'm like, nope. If this is the way you treat it, we're not, and it's owned by white people, so that is even worse. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, this is Jamaica. You're not going to treat me like a fucking slave in my own, but you're not doing that. When I was at Bahia, they tried that shit. This Spanish guy from Santo Domingo, I don't know where the fuck he was from. He tried some bullshit. I resigned effective, because I'm like, you are not fucking leaving Santo Domingo, come to Jamaica, treat me like a goddamn slave. Or the Spaniards, I mean, they're Hispanics, but I don't give a fuck. They're still Spanish people. They colonized Jamaica in the 1500s or the 1400s. At one point, you were our slave masters. You're not coming here in the 2000s to do that shit. Fuck you. You're not coming to my country to treat me like a goddamn slave. That's not happening, my friend. It's not happening. You have to owe me that. It will be over my dead body before me personally allow that. I don't know about other people. But if I'm working for anybody who is not Jamaican, watch it. Don't fuck with me. You're not gonna come in my country and treat me like a second class citizen or treat me like I'm some fucking slave on your plantation. I'm gonna tell you to go fuck yourself and leave your job. It's just as simple. So of course I resigned. Because this dude just took the piss. This was just Grand Bahia Principe. And he went on some racist shit. And I'm like, listen, I do not countenance disrespect from nobody. I do not. I don't care who you are. If you're the general manager, I don't give a fuck. I don't countenance disrespect from nobody. And so I resigned and I left. Another manager from one of the other hotels, he was from Colombia. And he did it with everybody else, but he just couldn't do that shit with me. Because I'm like, I am not that one, my friend. Not me. I can't tell other people what treatment to accept. I can only do that for myself. I do not allow nobody from nowhere. Because I do hear that, people working for the Chinese or whatever, they're being mistreated here. But I wouldn't have that technique because I'm not going to work in a fucking Chinese supermarket. I'm not doing that. So I don't know personally, but I'm like, I think one of my nieces used to work. I think they were Indians. And she had to leave because she was like, they were horrible. And I'm like, you allow people to leave India to come to Jamaica to mistreat you? I'm like, you never do that. You do not let foreigners come in your country and mistreat you. Don't allow it to happen. Now, of course, if I go overseas, I'll leave anyway. Like if I'm in America and they're on some bullshit, like get out. Like I'm gonna be like, fuck you. I don't give a fuck, right? But I will be more accepting if I'm in another country and they're like, treating you like shit. It's kind of like, well, it's my fault. Shouldn't have come here, right? So while I may feel a way, I'm not going to be as outraged as if it was in my own country because it's like I left my country and come here. So you know what I mean? This is what you get. Suck it up. You know what I mean? Like that. I will give and take with that because like, well, I'm on your turf, so I just gotta suck it up until I can leave. But not in my like you're not doing that shit here, not with me. And so in every instance because they always do it, it's one of the weirdest things. Like everywhere you go, you always have this one manager who wants to come and dominate you and assert their power and their authority. And I'm like, you good? Because listen, I don't care what you are, I don't care what your title is, that has nothing to do with me. If I am not doing the job that I am being paid to do, then of course we can have a conversation. But you ain't got no problem with my work. So your little power play ain't got shit to do with me. And if you disrespect me, I'm going to disrespect you the fuck back. It is as simple as that. And then I'm going to report it to HR. Because I'm going to disrespect you. Because of course if I don't disrespect you and report it to HR, nothing. So I'm going to fucking disrespect you back. Just so we're clear. I'm going to disrespect you right the fuck back. Then I'm going to report it to HR. Because I don't play like that. I don't play that game. So, it's one of those things that it makes... there's this trepidation. Like I'm done with work. Like I'm tired of working for people because like people are just evil and cruel and mean and selfish. Everybody. It's like, oh, there's some good. Like no, the organization itself is not a building. It's the people working for the company. Like it's people. Like what are you talking about? These are people. It's not an organization. Is not a real human being. It's the people who are running the organization that is the problem. And it's like everywhere you go, it's the same thing. And sometimes it's coming from, well, this was done to me, so I'm going to do it to you. And it's like a rite of passage. And I'm like, no, the fuck is not for me. Because I had to literally call one of my supervisors at one of the places that I was working. Like, she was getting on my fucking nerves. And I had to call her manager and say, listen, speak to her because I am going to blow her up. Because she's taking the piss. I know I may seem calm, I know I may seem docile, but I am not. Like, when you piss me off, the demon come out. And she has pissed me off. I don't need this job. I don't. I am here because I want to be here. There's a difference. And I don't know if she understands that. And she's taking the piss. She did something that was really out of order. And it just like, so I was gonna like just cuss her out and leave. But I called her manager and like, listen, because there was a problem with people not staying on her team, and it was the same issue. They were like, this bitch, this woman is a fucking witch, right? And I'm like, well, guess what? She done, like, she met the wrong one. I'm gonna light her up. And so I called her manager and I listen, this lady she's out of pocket. And somebody needs to talk to her because I don't countenance disrespect from any, I don't care who you are. You have no power over me. You're not in charge of me. You're here to supervise the work, not me. Because I have not given you a reason to supervise me. I am on time every single day. My desk is cleared. All the tasks on my desk are cleared before my shift ends. So you're not fucking supervising me. You're supervising the work. So you don't have you have no power. You're not controlling me. You're not managing me because I am not an employee that needs to be managed. I am very self-sufficient and self-reliant. If you hire me, you ain't gotta I'm just like one of you, without the other's responsibility of taking care of people. You have I'm an easy, what am I call it? I'm one of those smooth say whoever is in charge of me they got no pay, no worries, no nothing. They ain't gotta worry about me. They ain't gotta worry about I need to check if this. They don't gotta do that. It's done. If they ask me to do something, they can forget about it. Once they're like, hey, can you do this for me? And I've acknowledged that, that's it. You need to check again, because it is done. So all my supervisors but for this one I was relatively new and she hadn't, she was kind of trying to assert some kind of power or I don't know, it's always the females though. I don't know why they always feel this need to show you who is the, and it's like, bitch, I don't care about, I'm here to make money, that's it. I don't give a fuck about you and your position. I don't care. Because I am not incompetent, so I don't need you. There's nothing that I need you for. With respect to the job, I know how to do my job and I'm doing my job and you have no issues with my job. The interpersonal relationships, those are things I don't, if we get along, we get along. If we don't, I just don't talk to you. You know what I mean? And it was a little petty bullshit, and then she had this passive-aggressive way of dealing with stuff. Those hypocritical, demonic people who, they have this, when you watch those movies where you have like a demon and they do a glamour charm, so they look like this beautiful thing, but it's literally just casting an illusion, right? But they're really just ugly and terrifying. That was her. Not in terms of her appearance, but in terms of, the type of person that she was. So she was, oh, hi, but was just a devil. And I'm like, listen, I am not the one. So I called the manager and I vented, and she was like, oh my God, because the stuff that I was saying was identical to what the other people who left the team complained about. She was like, but then, I guess she was there for a long time and it was hard to get rid of her and whatever the situation might be. So she was like, oh, just try to see if you can, because she realized that I wasn't lying, because it's like, that's why the guy, literally this was what the guy before you who was there, that's literally, and he never stayed. He left. And you're so good and we don't want to lose you and, whatever. So so she apologized for her and whatever the situation might be. And I found a way to deal with her, right? And eventually she was moved off my team. I think that was the universe because, she was moved off my team to another section where I didn't really have to deal with her and everything. And I got a good supervisor and everything went smoothly from there. But, it's just that sometimes just looking, it's like, it's hard. And then they're like, oh, people don't want to work. It's like, but you guys make it hard. Because number one, no, nobody, my friend, I just spoke to my friend this morning and he's telling me that somebody's getting a job as a junior accountant. And when I saw this salary, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with these? What is wrong with these employers? I'm like, that's not, it's barely above minimum wage. And I'm 100% sure that cannot cover the expenses of the fixed expenses of the person. I'm like, but this can't do anything. So I told him to say, hey, let them know that, just say, this is what I was expecting, blah, 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 and this is what I'm setting for, and see if they will bring it up. Because it was just ridiculous. And these people are offering salaries as if you are in the year 2000. The salaries that they're offering are for the year 2000, not 25 years later. And I just don't, I'm like, why is there such a disconnect? I cannot understand why there is such a glaring disconnect between people who are employing people and the economic realities that the everyday person have to face. I just don't understand. I don't understand. And then it's when you go, it's like the workload is like, oh my God. And then they complain as to why people are not staying. And it's like, bitch, because okay, I need a job, and you're like, oh, I'm paying you X, and I'm like, okay, I need a job anyway, something is better than nothing. But then you come and you look at the volume of work that you have to do, and you're like, fuck no, I'm not doing this shit. And they keep wondering why people are leaving. And of course, because this job that I just left, everyone left for the same reason, the pay. And they keep asking why people are leaving. I don't understand. I don't belong here. I don't belong here. I don't belong in this world. I have no use here because it's all zombies walking around, and talking to people drains my energy. Because imagine you have a problem and you call customer service and you get a machine and you're trying to explain your problem to the machine, And the machine keeps saying that's an invalid response, and then keeps repeating for X press 1. If you know your party's extension, dial it now. It keeps repeating the same line, and you're trying to get through to someone to relay your concerns to, and you're stuck with this machine who keeps just going over, this is not a valid response, and then repeating the options, and none of the options that it is giving you are for the concern that you have, right? And it keeps doing, and it's like this is what it feels like to talk to people in real life. Like, I know they say, boy, in order not to reincarnate in this life, obviously you have to wake up or open your third eye or whatever the fuck the thing might be. But it's like, once your eyes have been opened to reality, it is hard to live on this planet because there's just nobody that you can relate to. Not to mention relationships. You can't have intimate relationships because everybody's a fucking zombie. Like, literally. In the dating market, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of fucking time. Like, just give up. You're not gonna find a mate. It's not happening. If you're working, you're always going to be difficult. 100% you're going to be difficult. I passed the interviews because of my energy. They feel the lightness and the light shine. So they know, like, yeah, that's because I hear people, oh, you have to lie in the interview. I don't. But I still get through because the energy is light. They can feel and this is because, when you have energy vampires, you're drawn to, it's like a moth to a flame. They're drawn to the energy because it's so pure, right? So they get that. So it's not like I'm answering the questions the way that they want. I'm answering honestly. And some of them still getting these jobs. Because I don't know how, no, I've reached that point now where I don't know if I can answer those questions. Tell me about yourself. I don't know if I just can't do it. It's like, I don't know if it's artistic people, like, they have that thing, or somebody that, like Monk. If you watch Monk, and he had this compulsive thing where, if you move something, he had to go back and fix it, and he just could not get on with what he was doing until it's kind of like, I just can't do it. I know of course I go through, I don't really talk to people, so that helps. I have very few people that I interact with on a personal level. It doesn't, because solitude is the only, how do I put it? It's the only, it's right. I can't think of the word, but it's kind of like the only solace you have. Like, because just when you go out and you have to interact with people, it's like you're thrown into a computer game with all these NPCs, and so the NPCs are programmed to do certain, because NPCs always, even if it's a shop seller, if it's a vendor, they're, welcome to my shop, blah 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 blah, and it's like everybody's like a robot. That's how it feels. Like, these are not real human beings with a soul inside of them walking around, and so it is so hard. It's so hard to just. So it's easier from, like, I'm here, I'm on my computer, I'm writing my book, I'm doing research. Sometimes I'll go live and talk, or I'll make my little videos about whatever topical issue that I see going on and talk about it. Of course, because I still have to interact. I'm not a fucking hermit, not yet, right? I still have to interact, and I still want to, in some way, I still want to engage, but it's like I have to guard my energy, because it's like when you go out in the public, it's like everybody's sucking the life, like your essence from you, because they're zombies. It's hard. And then the work itself wasn't hard. It was dealing with the people, because it's just, you're dealing with robots, programmed, mindless automatons. And until you find yourself, and that is why a lot of people end up killing themselves when they have these awakening or whatever, because there's this. I went through the period of depression. It happened, I think between 2017 and 2019. Because then you lose religion, because then you realize that religion is literally bullshit. People are worshiping the devil. It's designed to lead you straight to hell, and not, hell is not real, but away from God, right? Into this lower, dark state. Because every religious person has a deeply ingrained cognitive dissonance that they have to wrestle with. And so when you become, because we don't understand, like, they think that when you abandon religion, you abandon God. No, the awakening comes from God. You recognize that you're now connected. Like, when you're connected, like, if you're connected with God, you cannot be a religious person. You can't. It's kind of like, imagine God being connected to. Imagine, like, remember, the light repels the darkness. That's the best analogy I can. So there's no way darkness and light can wrap. It's just not gonna happen. The light repels the dark. So if you are when you're connected to God, literally, because this is what people don't, because you're not well, you're separated from God in the sense that you're having this experience, but in terms of your consciousness, when that becomes kind of like linked back, it's not a direct link in this, because if it was a direct link, you would die, because you can't survive in the physical plane when you realize that it's an illusion. It just doesn't work, and I'm struggling with that right now, because it's kind of like I still want to, so I'm kind of delaying my, I don't know what to call it, because there are different levels of awareness or enlightenment, right? And I'm like actively trying to suppress getting higher in terms of a higher level of awareness, because at that point it's kind of like, you know, you literally do not want to be here. And some people, of course, like I think Alan Watts just, he planned his funeral and everything, and he just died. He planned out everything before he died, and he just died. I don't know what they said he died, but I'm sure he just went, right? He made that choice to leave, because you can, when you reach to a certain level of awareness, you can just leave. It's not committing suicide. You just the spirit leaves the body and you're gone. Just like when you're old and you went to sleep one night and then your relatives find you dead. You can just leave, because there's no, and I'm just like, I'm not even there, and it's like it's so hard to. It's hard. I went through the dark night of the soul. It's not pretty. That's when you lose religion. The dark nights of the soul happens when you realize that, so the foundation that you had, you're holding on to God and heaven and hell, and you have to do right, and you have to follow Jesus, and you lose all of that, because you realize all of it is bullshit. It's all bullshit. Literally, it's all bullshit. It's a control mechanism. So you lose that, and now it's like, no, you don't know anything, because everything that you know, you realize, that's a lie. So just imagine what that does to your mind. You come into the awareness that everything that you believe about yourself, life, everything is a lie. So you lose religion, you lose everything, and there's nobody to talk to. Because people would not understand. Like, you're no, because the Christians are going to start cussing you, right? Because that's what they do. That's what they always do. You have somebody with a mental illness, you need Jesus. Like literally, these people are fucking sick in the head. You're going through a struggle, and they're trying to bring you to the thing that you have now recognized is not real, because they don't know any better. So there's nobody to talk to, because they're NPCs, they're automatons. They can't help you, right? And then you do have people who have awakened, because people don't understand. You still have free will in terms of what you do, and you can choose to do, quote unquote, even though there's no such thing as bad or good, but you can choose to do things that we interpret it in this reality as bad or evil. And there are a lot of people who have come into the knowledge, and they decide to use it for bad. So you have to be very careful. And I don't know, there is something, I don't know if it's me, or people say guardian angel or whatever, there is always that voice, that thing. I think it's my higher self. I don't think it's an angel. I think it's me, but a higher version of me, like the essence of my soul that is trying to have this experience, but it's somehow disconnected, because there's a different level of consciousness. There's the conscious mind that, I'm here, I'm feeling when I touch, blah blah blah, but it's not. It's just the ego that you have created, that mask that you choose to wear in this reality to function and move around and whatever, right? And then there's the real you that you have to kind of connect to. Sometimes people say, they have a gut feeling, or they got an instinct, don't go out tonight, and then you hear the shoot up the bar that you're planning to go. That sort of thing. That's you. That's your higher self speaking to you. People say it's God, but it's not God, it's you. So that version of me is like always, so it's what got me through that's how I never became suicidal, because I was never suicidal. A lot of people become suicidal. I was never suicidal, because I had this analogy where I was out. I see it like I am out now in the open waters, and there's just darkness, and I must find my way. So I am searching, and I'm failing in the dark, but the light is there. The answer is there. And that was the analogy that I had in my head. And that is, so I never become distraught. When it was one night, it just happened, because it's not a gradual thing. There was just one night I was at work, I think it was 3 a.m., and I just had this epiphany. And there goes religion. Like, it became so clear in my head that it's all bullshit. And then everything begins to make sense, and you begin to understand why it's bullshit, and you begin to understand why it's made up, and why it was done, and everything. It's this. I don't know. Like, until you have the experience, it cannot be explained. You just know, and you can see it crystal clear. But the clarity exists in your higher state of conscious, and you have in order to explain it, you would have to bring it down into the lower state, and then get the ego to understand. But the ego wrestles against the higher consciousness, and that's the problem. So when it comes to explaining what you experience or what it is so hard, because you have to deal with the conscious mind, and then cognitive. So you're fighting cognitive dissonance as well as the. So even though you know at a higher state of consciousness, the lower mind, which is, I would just say the brain or whatever. I don't fucking know. The brain, what thinks, what helps you to form the words, and when you say you're thinking, that mind or that consciousness, it is because remember it was programmed from birth that all these things are true, and then the higher state you become now aware of it. That there's a higher self, there's a higher me that is now feeding me the conscious brain information, but the conscious brain is railing against it, and the cognitive dissonance is setting in. And then it's like, well, how do you reconcile the two, and then how do you explain to people that? So it's hard, and not everyone has that, because then there has to be a certain wisdom that comes with it. So you have to get the wisdom. The wisdom helps you to understand, and with the understanding you can now translate it to regular people. But then remember, they too are automatons, they're not awakened. So imagine you're awake and your conscious mind is wrestling with the awakened state. Imagine the person is not awake. You understand? So even if you are explaining to them what is happening, the cognitive dissonance is going to kick in. Because people don't understand the truth does not matter. It's what you believe does. If you believe the sky is red, guess what? You're going to believe the sky is red. Even if you look up and you realize that the sky is blue. For some people, that's how it is. So, and the mind works in such a way that you can look up and see a red sky if you honestly believe that the sky is red. When you look up, your brain will transform the light that is reflecting on your iris as red. So you see a red firmament. It's that serious, right? So it becomes so, it's hard. And then sometimes I understand when I hear people like, oh, people need to wake up. I used to do that too, because it's one of those things where kind of like, no, you need company, because I don't have anybody to talk to. I'm looking around and I'm seeing zombies and I'm fucking lost, and I need somebody to be lost with me too. And I think that is why people want to wake, people trying to wake everybody up and wake up, because it's kind of like it's lonely out here. It's because you can help them. The funny thing is, if somebody's waking up, you can be that shepherd. But the danger is now, if you're a horrible person, then you can lead that person right into the jaws of hell. That's the problem, and that's why I never sought anybody out, because there is I don't know what I'll say, an inflection point when it comes to consciousness, right? In the infancy of your awakening, the ego is, because the ego is at every stage, I feel. The ego is at every stage. Now, when someone becomes awake, right? Because remember, you cannot be alive without the ego. There's no way where people say, oh, you gotta get rid of it. You can't. You cannot get rid of the ego. Is the only thing that can operate in the physical space. I am whatever your name is. I am John Brown. I am 5 years old. I am a male. I am American. I have a bachelor's degree. That's the ego. Because how are you going to talk to people? How are you going to have a conversation? You know what I mean? So the ego, in order for you to live, and I mean literally live, in the physical realm, the ego, that is the ego that carries you through. It's the ego that allows you to engage in conversation with another human being, right? The higher self can't do that. Because if you're in that higher state, when you're having the conversation, you can channel it through the ego. But there's still a tug of war between the ego, because you have to repel consciously and actively cognitive dissonance. It's kind of like the Hulk. Remember, I don't remember which of the movies, when they ask him, how does he get angry to go into the Hulk state, and he's like, I'm always angry. So it's kind of like you're always repelling cognitive dissonance, because the ego is always wrestling with the spirit. Always. It's a 24-hour, 24/7 battle. 3-6, every single waking moment of your life, your ego, once you become awake, is fighting against your spirit. That battle, that tug of war between the spirit and the flesh, some people don't realize that is happening. Like I said, I don't know what's going on with me, where that is, because I never went, I am always aware of it. I'm always, I don't know, it's, my higher self is kind of like, I don't know, it's like really good to me, you know what I mean? And so, during my awakening, I realized that there are dangers. How do I know this? I don't fucking know. I just realized that, okay, so I would listen, of course, I'd listen to the gurus. I used to listen to Sadhguru, and it was just like that in the back of my mind. I'm like, don't trust this dude, but I wasn't listening, but it was like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like my higher consciousness is that's where the listening is taking place, not through the ego, right? And so in so listening, I'm listening and listening and listening, and what is resonating with my soul, I take it, and what is resonating with my soul, I'm taking it in, and I'm getting the knowledge, and I'm, working through my confusion until the energy shifts. And I'm like, okay, let's do this on some bullshit, right? And I stop listening to him. So you have to, because a lot of people, they're so lost, and then they run to, oh, this person sounds like they know what you're talking about, and the person leads them astray. It happens all, and that is how cults are formed, and people become brainwashed, and fanatics and zealots, and that is how it happens. Because people, them get an awakening, and in that state, because now you are untethered, you have no foundation, you have no nothing, and you have to now reform you have to now reprogram yourself. And in trying to, because what are you going to program yourself? Because you don't know that this is what is supposed to be happening, right? How are you going to do that? Because you don't know anything. So what programming are you going to put? Or are you going to override? Because now you know, okay, well, religion is not it. It's like they're full of shit. So what is there a God? Like, do I become an atheist? And that's why a lot of people become atheists, because when you realize a lot of people, if you check all the atheists, majority of them were Christians. So they got the awakening and they found out that shit, religion is bullshit. It's literally man-made to control people, right? And so they become atheists. There is no God. And then they're still in the dark. And every atheist, well, I don't want to say every, but the ones who were Christians turned atheists, they're still going through that dark night of the soul. That is the unfortunate reality. They are still lost at sea. And they can't see the light from the lighthouse. And there's nobody there to guide them to the light. You understand? Because their understanding of God is still rooted in religion. And that is why they don't believe in religion. Because then if religion is bullshit, then the God of religion is bullshit. Right? And so they become atheists, because it's like, okay, I know for a fact that, like, you can't convince, because I was a Christian, I was a pastor, you cannot convince me that religion, oh, there's Jesus and there's God, and God is coming back and revelation and blah blah. You can't convince me of that shit. It's all bullshit, it's all nonsense, it's all made up, right? So they know that. And so they dispel, because all gods are tied to a religion. But the problem that they have is that, yeah, but God is not tied to religion. God is independent of religion. You don't need religion to believe in God, and you shouldn't believe in God, because it's kind of like me believing in the breeze. No, the breeze is just there. It doesn't require anything from you. It's the same thing with God. Is there, and you're a part of the divine source, the divine content. Like, we are literally an extension of it, right? So it doesn't require anything from you in terms of belief or worship or what. It doesn't. Like, what do you do to the breeze? You don't. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do to the air? Like, nothing. We don't get up every day and be like, oh my God, I need to worship the oxygen, because without oxygen you're gonna fucking die. Without the sun, like, why are we not worshiping the sun? Because if the sun burns out tomorrow, man, do all, are we dead? Yet we don't worship the sun, right? If the moon falls, the whole planet will be flooded. If we believe science, right? So why are we not worshiping the sun and the moon? Because those two celestial bodies are critical to life, sustaining life on this planet. But we don't worship them. Why? But we worship God. That doesn't make any sense. You don't need to worship the sun, because whether you worship the sun or not, it's gonna rise it's gonna rise when the day lights, when the day breaks. Whether you worship the moon or not, it's going to rise when the night falls. Whether you worship the breeze or not, the breeze going to blow. The wind is going to blow whether you worship or believe in it. It's not gonna affect. The wind is going to do what it does. Act according to its nature. Oxygen is going to act according to its nature. It doesn't require anything from you. And it's the same thing with God. You don't need to worship God. There's nothing that you need to do. That's it. You do what you do and God do what it does. So because they don't understand that, they now become atheists. Oh, I don't believe in God and blah blah blah. And we have this. You don't believe in God, but you believe in the Big Bang. None of them make sense. Like, the fuck? Right? None of them make sense. So you're still lost in the wilderness. So you're still going through the dark night of the soul, and it's a very lonely and depressing place to be. And that's why a lot of people who get away, they end up taking their own lives. I was fortunate enough, I had that dark night of the soul, and I don't know if I'm out of it completely, because like I said, I'm actively repressing. I don't want to get into a higher state of consciousness yet, because if I'm here and I'm like, it's hard, it's difficult to function. What is going to be like when like, have more opening to, when you are now open to it's. So maybe when I'm closer, like I'm a lot older and I'm looking, I have one foot in the grave, then I will become transcendent. I will do that. But I have a lot more years ahead of me. I can't, in this young state, I can't do it. I want to experience life. I want to enjoy life. It's already difficult now. It's very difficult. Just interacting with people is hard, because sometimes it's hard to explain, but when they talk, I can just speak through the bullshit. I just know what they're saying is suffering. But it's kind of like, how do you explain it to them? Because then remember, the cognitive dissonance, you're not just fighting against, you're not just having to translate what you know, because there's a difference between knowing and understanding, right? Just in the same way, you can come up on a math problem. Okay, I can read it out. X square plus, or AB plus B square minus C square equal AB. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I can read it out. I don't understand it. I don't know what to do. You get what I'm saying? So you can get, it's like they give you, it's like a scientific paper. You go online and you download a scientific paper, and there's the abstract, and there's the introduction, and the discussion, and the methodology, and the conclusion, and the funding, and the conflict of interest, and you don't understand the fuck what is in there. You understand? You probably have to now get somebody who's a scientist to kind of like explain what is it adequate? Explain, so because you wouldn't even know if whether to decide if the research was adequately powered, if the confidence interval was met, if they used the correct methodology. Because when you're doing your statistical analysis, you have to choose one that is relevant to the type of study that you're doing. You can't just pick any model, right? You have to so all of that. But you wouldn't know if you don't understand how research is done. So taking up the paper and reading it, yes, I can read, but I don't understand what I'm reading. So having the knowledge is not the same thing as understanding. So that's where wisdom comes from. So you now need the wisdom to translate the knowledge into information, because knowledge is like data, raw data. Raw data by itself doesn't do anything. It's just there. You have to make sense of the data, right? So wisdom is what translates the knowledge into sizable bites that you can digest, meaning I understand what I become aware of. When you understand it, there is a different level of assessment now that you will now have to assess your audience. So whomever it is that you're going to be giving this information, you have to assess their level of intellect. And that's so you're going back to wisdom to break it now down and communicate it in a way that they can understand. So it's like a high level thinking. And so a lot of people are not able to do that because they don't. Yes, you get the knowledge, but do you understand what you? Because you get the knowledge, that's how it works. You don't get understanding with the knowledge. That's where the higher state of consciousness comes in. Because you can get they call it download. I don't know what to call it. Let's just go. You get the download, and sometimes you see people, I just got the download, and they run off the mouth, and the interpretation is way off. And there is a rubric that you can use. It's kind of like, if it is divisive, if it breeds controversy, your interpretation is wrong. It's that simple. If what you're saying is divisive, oh, black people are the real gods, because I hear a lot of woke black dudes saying this shit. And they're calling themselves gods and kings and a bunch of bullshit. And white people are the lesser human beings. You have corrupted the knowledge that you got. There's nothing about true knowledge that is divisive. Absolutely nothing. But if you listen to all of them, their rhetoric is divisive. What they're saying, oh, you melanated and this, that, blah, 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 and that makes you're like literally, and they're now sounding like the very people who hate them, who kill them, who rape them. I'm talking about like our ancestors, right? And but you cannot become the monster that you hate. And you can't hate anybody. You can get angry because, of course, there's the ego. Because like I said, there's always there's a constant fight between the ego and the higher self. But you cannot hate, and it's impossible. Once, of course, if you're still going through the dark night of the soul, you can become a very vengeful spirit. You can become a diabolically evil person, because you still have the power. People don't. You still get premonitions, and you can still. It's hard to say, because just like you can't explain how you know. I remember I was working at this place, and I went to. It just came to me that the guy I was working with was gonna leave. Right? He's gonna leave. And the manager came in and I'm like, y'all need to start interviewing. This guy's going to leave. And he's like, he sent in his resignation today. How did you know that? I'm like, it just came to me. Like literally, I was just there and he's like, tell him they need to start interviewing because this guy's gonna leave the job. And the guy left the job the same day. I don't know. I don't know. Right? And then when I was supposed to leave that same job, my contract had ended. They typically renewed the contract. And I was leaving, and I was like, go get your stuff. I'm walking off the desk, and the voice just said, you need to get your stuff. So I went back, deleted all the files off, because I did my degree while I was working there, so all of my assignments and stuff. So I had my college folder with my assignments and blah, 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 So I deleted all my personal information off of the computer. I bought my own, I bought my own scissors, I bought my own stapler, I had my own little stuff, because over time, when the ones on the decks, go through the wear and tear and they were no longer usable, it was just so hard to get them to replace them. And I worked the graveyard shift, so there was nowhere for me to get any of these things. So I just bought my own, right? So I deleted all my files, took my stuff, and I left. And they never renewed the contract. And I just knew that they weren't going to renew the contract. How did I know? I don't know. So it's just one of those things that. So they will still they're going through the dark night of the soul, and they're still getting it, because people don't understand. People think that's why, and it's another reason why people become atheists, because why does God allow children to starve and children to die and blah, blah, blah? And it's like, God is not allowing anything to happen. The breeze blows because that's what the breeze does. The sun shines because that's what the sun does. So what is happening in real, remember, this is, people don't understand, it's kind of like a video game, right? If I log into Fortnite or World of Warcraft and I go around killing stuff, what's it like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not real. So what the fuck? So it's the same thing. So God is not is not so much concerned with what is happening, because at the end of the day, it's just an experience. Our perception of the experience would, but it's neither here nor there as far as God is concerned, because everything is the way it is supposed to be, whether we perceive it to be good or bad. All the horrible stuff that you can think of that people do, it is what it is, right? So it's not that you're allowing it to happen. It's reality allowing to be what reality is, right? And it's cause and effect at play. There's a constant interplay between cause and effect as a result of our actions. So it don't really have anything to do with God per se, because we are making these choices, and these choices result in outcomes. And these are the consequences of the outcomes that we're seeing. And so you don't really have, so it's not God allowing anything to happen. It's just us having this experience and creating this reality for ourselves, right? Co-creating the reality. It's very complicated, and I don't know if I have the intellectual bandwidth to explain it to people, but it's not God allowing anything to happen. It's like the sun shines because the sun shines. You understand? The breeze blows because that's the nature of the breeze. The unfolding of reality is as a result of a convergence of different forces. All of us doing what we're doing. You understand? A collection of actions and reactions and whatever. That is reality. So that is how reality is unfolding. You don't really have nothing to do with God. We are what is making whatever is happening. Right? And then the Earth, the planet itself, when it comes to these forces, the breeze and the stuff, it's just like your body. You're not keeping yourself alive, literally. You don't know what the cells in your body are doing. You're not the one beating your heart, right? You're not consciously breathing in and out. You're not the one making your eye blink. You're not doing that shit. You're not pumping the blood. You're not consciously pumping the blood around your body to the different organs and cells. You're not doing that. You can't control your heart. The heart beats on its own. You can't control your heartbeat. Of course you can monitor, you can control your breathing, but you can't consciously control your breathing perpetually. You can't. You can control the blinking, but you can't consciously control your breathing, your blinking, the beat. You can't do it simultaneously. So your body's just doing what the body does. You're not controlling anything. You're just an observer. It's the same fucking thing. When it comes to reality, reality is doing what reality does. So the bad things that are happening, the good things that are happening, is just the unfolding of reality. They ain't got nothing to do with God. So people hate God and say, oh, God allowed this up, God allowed that up, and then they become atheists, and it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know, anyways, I think I've talked long enough. I'm going to close this out. I think I went a little bit off track. I kind of got sidetracked from what I was saying, but it is what it is. See you guys in the next live.